Well, hello, my silky friends. Oh, hey, I see that Prof is already in the background. All right, I'm not. Let me turn on your comments. Oh, my goodness, there's a ton. Oh, my goodness. All right, Prof's going to have to help me with this. I am super excited. Let me say again, hello, you beautiful people. Thanks for joining us. All right. Hello, Prof.
Hey, hello everybody. Everybody hear me?
Can you hear us? Okay, I'm going to have to go. We've got so many comments on here
Looks
already.
like we're good to go and welcome everybody. Yeah, and
Yeah.
hey Silky. Yeah.
Hey, I want you to know, like right off, because we talked a little bit before. I changed shirts. Oh, here comes Sachi. I put on this necklace. I put on this necklace. This glows in the dark. This is from Alice in Wonderland, but I felt like it was appropriate for the Delphi dumpster fire. It says, "We're all mad here."
Yes. True. It's Delphi after all.
That's right. So, yeah, y'all, if you're here and you haven't met Sachi, like she makes my screen go in and out, but this is my cat that she aspires to be a YouTube creator, I think, because she's in every video on both of my channels. So there you go. So
Well,
how you
hey,
doing, Prof?
I'm good. I'm just trying to drink some water and see who's all in here. There's so many people. Let me say
Yeah.
hello. Do you guys mind if I say hello to everybody?
Yeah. Do I have you where you can highlight these?
I don't know. Let's see. Let's put Amy up. Let's see. No, you've taken my wrench or something.
No, it's not that. It's a setting on here. Hold on. I don't know if I can do it midstream though. I thought you did this last time that you were highlighting
There
stuff.
was
So
something different. Everything looks different to me, but okay, let's see. Amy, hello,
okay.
Music Man, Pinto, Mark Ellis, Brenda Mays, Oleg Cat, Amy, Silenced, Abby Sellers. Who else we got in here? Tammy Martin, Miss Pie Crust. Welcome in everybody. Bex, what's up, Bex? Scott Perkins, what's hello, sir. We got Rhonda Holton, Heavy Metal Rehab, Samantha Springman. Hey, Samantha.
Hey, Samantha.
Dom S. Tiffany Renee Rocks. Dieter. What's up, Dieter? Um, Jeez. Hello, everybody.
I
Um,
know. I gave up. I was just flashing the screen. I'm like, I can't even keep up.
Buckeye Clay Fan. Sweet Do Shibby. What up? Icy Cat. Hello. Artist formerly known.
Hello,
Christina's in here.
artist.
Hey, Christina. What's up, Carol? What's up, JoJo? Jeez. Jennifer. Court of Public Opinion. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Asha Harry, Teresa, Sunflower Soul, Adrian. Hey, Adrian.
Hey,
Uh,
Adrian.
Teresa. Hey, Teresa. Katie. Kelly Shaw. Jeez. Bonnie is here. Pam Sheehan. What's up, Mandy? And hey, everybody else who's lurking, come on in. Come on in. And
I
if you're on
tell
Silky's channel, hello, Silky's channel.
you. You know what I think I'm going to do? Hold on. I'm going to let me figure out which one it is. There it is. I am going to put a chat box up here because if you are on my channel, you don't see profs. And if you are on Prof's channel, you don't see mine. So there you go. What about that? Can you see the chat box?
I see him, Indiana Nan, Sunflower. We got Sunflower and Sunflower Soul. So two sunflowers in here. Old Mort, New Mort, Tracy Fleetwood, Deborah. Well, hello, everybody. Come on in. Who's her daddy? 11. What's
Yeah,
up?
I am I'm so far behind. That's why I'm just throwing it up here. So it'll catch up in just a minute. But yeah, wow, with the drama, the dumpster fire. Oh my god.
In
Prof
full
called
effect.
me today and he said, "Have you been keeping up with Delphi?" And I was like, yeah, meh, sorta. But the thing of it is it's when it gets like this, I I try to think about something else. So, um, yeah. Did okay. I don't know what I'm doing over here. All right.
Let's see. I don't have the highlight skills anymore, but since everyone's on the screen, maybe we won't do no highlighting. um, this is
Okay.
probably good though. So yeah,
Hey,
it's
digital.
crazy. It's crazy.
I know this is new. I should have done this before. I should have told you that I can do, I can do this. Hello, digital. Um, yeah, you just tell me who you want to highlight. I don't know what happened to your settings. I had you on here
I
and it
figured
should
it
have
out
been the
just now,
same.
I think. I didn't sign in, so I
Mm,
came in as a guest rather than as a co-creator. It's
hmm.
weird. Yeah, you know how usually I'm
Yeah.
backstage and yeah, this time I'm just a guest. So
Oh, well, it shouldn't be that way. I don't know.
I would have to sign out and sign back in, which means I'd have to go away for probably 3 minutes. But I'm okay with this. This is good.
Okay.
It's relaxing to me. I don't have to do a thing.
Yeah. So we can see everything. Hopefully, I can't see that well, but maybe we can see everything up here. Um, I don't know how close. Let me see. Oh, it looks like it's pretty. It looks like the chats are pretty even as they're coming in, which might be for y'all who are typing. Sometimes there is a lag on Facebook when you're in the chat before it shows up on my side. I've noticed, and not much, but sometimes a little bit. Yeah. So, uh, geez, Delphi, what do you think, Prof? I saw. I'm not even going to get into it. I'm not even touching the subject, okay? But I woke up this morning and I'm scrolling on X, just something that I do in the mornings. And I see already a war. And I'm looking in the comments and your name comes up. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So I was like, okay, let me go over there and see what Prof is doing. Um,
I'm just doing the right thing. People send me things all day and it's sort of annoying, but it's also good and entertaining. But so the latest couple things, like one of them, it was amazing, was Prof is blocking the DNA for being tested in the Delphi murders. Yes.
oh, really? Do you have that much power, Prof?
Apparently.
Wow. I'm impressed. I might need your autograph.
I'm unfortunately it would be infamous, not famous. Yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah, y'all, if you follow Silky Southern, I try to stay out of the drama. I try to just do and then yeah, I try to do facts, and then when it gets like this, I'm like, ugh. You know what? I started to go live yesterday morning, and then I said, you know what? I can't. It's like giving me, nausea. So I didn't. I just enjoyed the day with my family. And so when you call me today and you're like, you want to go live, I'm like, oh, do I really? But yes, I will. I will with you, Prof, for sure. So, you know, we wanted to have low light on, but he had a prior engagement. So, dadgummit.
Yeah, enjoy low light. Low light had a birthday party to attend, and rather than do this, he's going to enjoy a birthday party. But shout out to low light. And no, it's just crazy times. It's crazy times, and people are there's so many levels to this that I don't even know. You never know where to start. But no, I got another crazy email today, which is like, Prof, they are saying that you removed important parts from a contract that you posted. And I thought, really, am I that evil? That okay, so I posted a contract for
Yeah.
transparency purposes, but I'm so evil that I would delete pages out of sheer evilness because I'm manipulative and trying to, you know, fool people. Let's see. Welcome in, Buckeyed Clay fan. Four pit bulls, four pits.
Hey, poor pits.
Jennifer Hoff. That's the tiniest reading I've ever done. These new glasses are pretty damn powerful, I tell you. I can see it from here. Yeah. Uh,
um,
welcome in, Jennifer, and everyone coming in. Okay, I see all kind of people coming in. Well, what's up? Okay. No, it's crazy times, but there's things, I always hate to be that person because the thing about true crime that I hate the most is I have a source. That whole thing.
yeah.
Um, but I think there's something to the thought that there's a time and place to say things, and sometimes out of respect for people, you don't say certain things at certain times until a
Mhm.
time is a right to say so.
Right.
So there's things I could say that would help a lot of people understand more uh, where about what's happening in real time, but probably in the next weeks and months there'll be better times to say things that are more appropriate, and so I'm trying my best to just be nice to everyone and helpful to everyone and transparent with everyone. I think you know that. Um,
I
but
do. And I mean, the rumor mill around Delphi and here's the thing, Prof. I don't agree with every creator. I don't, but I don't hate any creator. Well, maybe one, but
no, I got a few on my list.
maybe one. But yeah. Oh, look at that. What is going on with the chat? Is it just catching up now?
I don't know which.
I
I
don't
don't know.
know. That's crazy. I Somebody said something about chat not scrolling. Well, it did now. Um yeah, but I don't hate on anybody. I don't care if we disagree. I don't care if we're on opposite sides. But I don't like the rumor mills. I mean, if you don't have proof, show me the proof. Show me the money. If you have got proof that somebody is doing something, that's one thing, but I just feel like um somebody says Prof did this, Prof did that. Well, you know what? If Prof did that, then somebody show me the proof, okay?
And that goes for everything in the case. I'm that way with everything, and everyone who knows me knows that I'm kind of an asshole about it. I mean, it's not just with the people, but with the facts of the case and the rumors of the case and the going back 8 years of BS. It's like basically I'm like a show me the money. I'm a show me the money type person. You got to show me and let me convince myself, and then maybe I'll run with it. You know.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. What I've seen with this whole community is so many people believe things, and let's be real here. There's a lot of emotions. Okay, the
Mhm.
emotions run wild in this community. Uh, to put it mildly,
Yeah, mildly, very mildly. And I don't I get it. People are passionate. Um some people are, I guess, more passionate to free Richard Allen. It's not that I'm not, but I'm even more passionate about justice for Abby and Libby because I don't think that we've gotten there yet. Um
oh no.
so I mean, it's a passionate case, but you know, we've said it before. How many times have we said it? If creators, if at least the ones on the same side, we would just band together. But I mean, it doesn't. I don't know. For some people, it doesn't get views. I don't care. I work a job, so I'm not dependent on YouTube. So I'm like I'm out. I'm not stirring up drama. I'm not getting in the drama. But
Well,
that's just me.
here's what I say. There's a lot of unifying factors. For instance, I believe the killers of Abby and Libby still run free.
Yeah, me
That
too.
should be a unifying factor to a lot of people.
Yeah,
I believe that a lot of the things the defense presented were true. And so that should be a unifying factor. I
yeah,
believe there are bad actors all over in this case, and that should be a unifying factor. Um,
absolutely.
I believe the judge did everything wrong. Law enforcement did everything wrong, and the whole cloud of secrecy over this case in totality for 8 years has been wrong. And I think that we should all have a lot of unifying factors. Um, and for instance, I know you like some people. So let me. Can I take over? So let me ask you this.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Oh,
so I'll
we're
be the host.
co-hosting this, by the way.
Okay.
It's just got we're co-hosting this, so absolutely.
I will interview you for I have a question, which is,
Okay.
well, what is your general theory of the case? Like what is your, because I know like we should have a unifying take on this too. I believe, because I know
Yeah.
what you think behind the scenes, but I mean it's like what is your umbrella kind of assumption about maybe what took place as a part of this crime or whatever?
Okay. And again, this is my opinion based on everything that I have looked at over the last 2.5 years. I believe I believe the timeline is completely wrong, as far as time of death. I believe that there were a lot of other factors going on in Delphi. Do I think it was? I think it was a group effort, kind of. I cannot. I think that illicit substances and trafficking of some kind, or both kinds, all kinds, was definitely involved. And I don't know whether it was pre planned or if the girls walked into it. Um, Given all of the factors of the nefarious people in the area, um, I would say there's more than enough. I mean, we're excluding the Odinists per se as a group. We're excluding Ron Logan, even though he could be guilty. I don't know. Um, but we're excluding them just to say that there were enough people and enough motives for things that were going on behind the scenes that have been going on in that community for years. And I think that the answer to who committed the crime is probably in that group of people. Um, I believe that the family, some members of them at least, I'm going to tread lightly here, know way more about what happened, um, than they are saying. Why they don't say everything could be for a multitude of reasons, maybe out of fear. I think the people in Delphi know what happened. I think that law enforcement, in some way, shape, or form, again, just my opinion, is involved in, if not in the perpetration of the actual crime, and definitely the cover up, because of the scale, the magnitude of who all has been involved, who's got their fingers in this pie in Delphi, who this tiny little town, this tiny little county, really, as far as actual population. You have so many big figures with their fingers in this. That is not normal. So my assumption is you are trying to hide something much bigger, and that's where I lean towards trafficking of some sort, and maybe several. Um, I think that to get the justice system, to get somebody, a judge involved, you know, to basically railroad somebody and have no due process. um I think that there has to be something bigger than, even if you believe that Richard Allen is guilty, I believe that there's got to be some reason that all of these people want to cover this up. All right. The judicial system doesn't get involved to this magnitude in these little tiny cases. So that tells me that there is something bigger at stake. I think that's about, does that about cover it? That's
I
what I
haven't
think.
disagreed yet. I
I
haven't
mean,
disagreed yet.
I have um I have put many theories of many people that I think could have been involved. Um
Hmm.
and I think during the years you've seen, people have seen episodes, shows after shows of why this one could be guilty, why that one. I think it is I think the only true statement that Doug Carter ever said was about the tentacles, that it goes so many places. I think that was absolutely the truth. And disregard anything else that ever came out of his mouth. My
The
opinion.
mystifying.
Yeah. I've always seen him as a car salesman, but
Well,
that's
see,
just
this is
me.
what I'm meaning by that. I think there's so much that's unifying here that if it were not for all the I truly believe we're dealing with post-traumatic syndrome, emotional gaslighting, manipulation tactics, and if it weren't for all of that post-traumatic high emotional intensity, I think we'd have like a less of a dumpster fire in this. But it's like, it's part and parcel with this entire case. But I think that these unifying factors are pretty much everyone can agree with, and with a very slim exception. There are some who will always cling to this being a lone wolf crime, there being no conspiracy. The timeline is perfect. It's the exact law enforcement fairy tale narrative, except it's not Richard Allen. And I disagree. I just can't see it because for me, like, you would never have a case with so many contradictions,
Hmm.
coincidences, conspiracies, and all the things and the lies and the things that don't add up. It would never be the case if this were a simple story. So the fact that you look at this in retrospect and you see all those complications, it's indicative of there being this tangled web of narrative, and so you have to accept all these coincidences and all these contradictions. And for me, that should be indicative enough for people to see that, you know Houston, we have a problem. And
Yeah.
just some people will always refuse to see that. And I told someone yesterday that you could almost put a bunch of terms in a hat, and there's so many problems in this case. You could put 1,000 terms in a hat and pull anyone out of that hat, and you could go off on it for an hour or two or three,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you know no matter what you pull out of that hat, this case has that many problems. Um, so,
I don't know what has happened to the chat. It's
oh,
frozen.
oh.
Like, it's really frozen.
Let
So
me
I
try to do this, Silky, as well. If you don't mind,
okay.
let me see if I can figure out how to come in the right way so that I can highlight the chat too. Let's see.
I mean, it's completely for y'all. It's completely stopped for me. And I don't know what happens if I hit refresh on my end. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it'll come back on. Y'all, let me try this.
Oops. Check, check. Hey, Silky, I can't hear you. I can't hear at all, but I see that I'm in here now. Can everyone hear Silky? All right, apologize. It's all my fault, but.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it threw off my settings. So actually, y'all have not heard all this. You just heard me chattering. Or you saw me chattering. I think we've got everything back up. I think everything's working. And now Prof is gone. Well, I don't know any jokes. Um, I can tell you some ghost stories. Oh, there we go. There he's back.
Sorry. Growing pains. We're learning. We're learning.
Yeah, I don't know if that. I see. I am hardwired to the Ethernet now, so I should not be having these problems. I don't know what's going on. Um,
Well, I think, is everyone hearing us both again? Are we good to go?
Now it seems like the chat is stuck again. Let me.
No, I see it moving.
Do
It's going to
you?
do that sometimes because I think sometimes,
Where you going, Prof? I know this is. We're gonna get into it. I promise. We're gonna get into everything.
right. I
You
think
keep
we're good.
disappearing.
I want to say hello to everyone who's come in. Hello, everyone. Okay. I think we have figured it out. We've restabilized. So I had to log off and log back in. Was my problem.
So, are you able to highlight
Yeah,
comments
I'm
now?
good now. I'm where I should be now.
Okay. Can you highlight somebody so I can see it? Because I. Okay, there we go. There
Sure.
we go.
I'm
Yay!
co-hosting now.
There we go.
All
Well,
right.
as
What's
you
up,
should
y'all?
be. As you should. All right. Absolutely wonderful. All right. So, it seems like our chat on the screen has stopped. Let me see. But go ahead and
Oh, well, that's what I was saying is it's going to stop at times
I'm
when
gonna
people slow
I'm
down.
gonna take this chat box off and see. I don't know. Maybe the chat box just isn't cooperating. Oh no, Prof.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Hey, just give. No, I am live right now. My son, he wanted my debit card.
Oh, Silky, did you hear me? The chat box was not malfunctioning. It just sometimes it stops until people text and then it comes on through again.
Okay.
That's
Well,
why it's kind of slowing down, speeding up.
okay. Well, I'll add it back. So while we're doing this, I know we've talked a lot about the different things that have come out, the new stuff. What do you think? Have you found anything like really interesting?
Yeah. You want to go into that now? Are we done with the we're done with
Oh,
the
I
other
don't
stuff?
know.
Let me
It's
see
up
if I
to
can
you.
let's see. I'll bring in something. Whoops, that's not it. Ignore that one. Okay.
Okay, let me go over to media. Oh, I'm gonna have to add Prof in here because he logged out. All right, let's get rid of that one. Sorry, y'all. See, we had
Total
all this
amateur
set
show
up.
here. Total amateur show. Okay. You guys see this, right? You guys see the so this is one of them, Silky. There.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move this over a little bit, and I may have to crop something else. Uh, get rid of these other things. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think everybody has seen this picture now. Let me make it bigger. Cause I know I posted it on X. I saw it. Uh, so what are your thoughts, Prof?
Well, for me, that this is your number one. This is probably the biggest drop in 5 years, I believe. I mean, other than the crime scene photos, which were leaked by you know who, but we're
Yeah.
gonna not get into that. But no, the other than the crime scene photos, which were leaked, this is the first official drop that we've had in years, and this tells a story in my mind. I don't like this one bit,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah,
I've heard a lot of people say different things about this, and honestly, I mean, I can see what they're saying. I get a lot of different feedback. One person said that Abby looks sleepy, and I know that they were up very late, the night before. Um, I don't know. They both look sad to me. Um,
yeah. I don't buy that. That is sleepy. That sounds like some kind of narrative controlling. That doesn't look sleepy to me. They both look upset, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Um, somebody said. One person said. I think maybe on X or somewhere that Libby has a tear in her eye. I mean, I can't really say if that is a tear or not. Definitely upset though. Yeah, Topher. They're both upset.
Yeah, I think that's where people get too far. You know, when people get into like one of them has a black eye, one of them is crying. Like, look, I never go too far in either direction. I always like being in the middle. And to me, I'm looking at this. I don't know about tears or black eyes or whatever, but I know what I see is two upset faces. You know, bare minimum.
Yeah. Well, it certainly doesn't go with the story that Kelsey, gave that they were having fun and laughing and listening to 21 Pilots um, and singing along. They don't look like they're having a good time. I don't know at what point this was, but I'd like to know the actual timestamp on this. Were they possibly waiting in the car for Kelsey to come in there? Was it a completely different scenario? What time? I want to know the timestamp. And we don't, of course, because it's Delphi. Um, I think it would tell a very different story if we knew for sure what time this was taken. That's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
that's the thing. None of that will like the. This is where I get into the family's fucking lying. Okay, I'm sorry because if we could trust anything the family would say, they might be able to tell us about this. You know, I'm sorry, Silky, to do it to your channel, but yeah, they could tell us
No.
when did this
Yeah.
happen? Why did they look like this? Who was
Yeah.
with them? But because of the all of the back and forth over the years, we can't even trust the metadata because the metadata can be manipulated. So basically, you're given this, and everything else you're going to get, you can't even rely on anyway. But you can rely on what you see here, which is something's not right. You know, and for me, there was a fight. Like I said on my show, what this tells me, there's a fight before. You know, so they're still upset in the aftermath, is what I sense.
It does seem to look like that. I mean, and here's the thing, like, yeah, Prof, you can say whatever you want. This is an us show. So, I mean, and it go into your channels as well. I I have a lot of problems. I do see and have seen a lot of inconsistencies with family statements. The only reason I don't hammer down on that is because I don't know if there is a reason, like not a reason as in they're guilty. I mean, but honestly, you can't discount that. I mean, you have to. You have to look if you're going to investigate something, you're going to have to look at every single person and especially those closest to them. So that's why people do. Um I can't say. I can just say there's a lot of inconsistencies. Why? What is the reason? Again, are they scared to talk? Are they involved? There's a reason for it, but I'm not going to necessarily assume that they're guilty, but it's out there. I mean, you have to consider the theory. And I mean, I know people get upset and I'm not trying to do that, but um the math doesn't math. It just doesn't.
No, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today regarding this because I have known about this, I would say for a year. Okay, for about a year, a friend of mine, one of my friends has told me there's a selfie in Discovery and it proves that they went to the trails. Because I was saying, I don't even trust that they were at the trails. And this
Yeah, I've said
person
that
is like,
too.
no, there is a selfie in the car on the way to the trails that proves that they went there. And I was like, okay. And this person kept regarding or referring to it as an awkward selfie. She kept calling it an awkward selfie. And so in my mind, what I had pictured is that it was at an awkward angle,
Mhm.
but I envisioned that it would show Abby and Libby like we're used to seeing them, which is all smiles. So
Yeah,
I thought, okay, when we do see this selfie, the metadata is going to be the curious part, and I'm gonna probably expect to see it at an awkward angle, but that they're normal. And what really
right.
floored me or gutted me is when I saw this the other day. The first, it shocked me. It like blindsided me because I saw it and I said, "Oh man, this isn't just an awkward angle. This is this is upset feelings that these girls are doing." And then I thought, why is she showing it? Like why is she taking this photo?
Yeah, that
You know?
was my question when I saw their expressions. That was literally one of the first questions that I was asking myself. Why take a photo like this? Because it's not necessarily anything that you would want to put on social media, because social media, especially at that age, is about having fun. It's, yeah, like you said, smiles, that kind of thing. So was she just documenting a bad moment?
Well,
Um,
that yeah, I think so because I asked another friend. I said, "That isn't that what girls do?" You know, you think about most women since smartphones have come about
yeah.
when they're in moments of upsetness.
Mhm.
You see a lot of women will do a selfie being upset after they've just cried or you know
Yeah.
because they want to somehow memorialize that upsetness and then use it later or share it with someone or maybe as a keepsake. So I looked at this and I thought, is this sort of a documenting of the bad feelings that were going on in them in this moment? Um, but I guess what I'm getting at in this whole thing, the way that I feel is, see, this goes right in the face of the family's narrative over the years, which has been what? You know,
Yeah.
the girls having a party, the time of their lives, and begging to go to the trails. Please, 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 please bring us to the trails. Please, please, bring us to the trails. Bring us. Asked us like 5 times that morning. Bring us, please, 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 to the trails. And we negotiate if someone comes pick you up. Someone, blah blah blah. Please bring us to the trails. And then on the way, they're so happy to go to the trails that they're singing songs and the windows are down and you see that whole party atmosphere and they carefree and everyone and the girls being excited. Now when I look at this, it's a contradiction, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying about, you know, women, girls. uh documenting. I don't. I'm like I'm out on that for social media, but yeah, a lot of people do. And but I guess maybe she didn't share this one, but uh maybe just to document it on her phone. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Hmm.
But if this is an exhibit, my question is why? What is the significance of this picture? Because I'm sure she had hundreds of pictures on her phone. So why this one that made it to the exhibit?
Well, I had a theory about that too. See, I said this last night. Notice you got it kind of low, but it states Exhibit
Number
One.
1. Mhm.
So
There it is.
I thought about that, and is it okay? Listen, let's be honest here. This is all storytelling. This is
Mhm.
all storytelling. And people who actually start to understand life as storytelling, you start living your life in that way. This is all storytelling.
Yeah.
And so this prosecutor, he knows that this whole deal he's going to do is storytelling. So this becomes the first page of the first chapter of the first volume of the book. States Exhibit 1 bookends it. So what is this? Well, they're on the way to the trails. It's a sunny day. Look at what they're wearing. They're alive. What the sister said is true. I start to put all these things like, what would this prove? And to me, this is the attempt. Is this is an attempt to prove their proof of life, proof of time, proof of narrative. And it's so much so that they were willing to ignore the look of I don't know, of upsetness on these faces
Mhm.
and throw it in there anyway. So it's my conspiracy theory for you.
Okay, but then we go back to the the elephant in the room as far as her, if you're going to document, if Libby is going to document something so minute is on the way to the trails, and that's all this picture means, okay, is we're going to the trails, then why doesn't she have a lot of other pictures on the trails going up on the bridge? We only have one picture of Abby. Um, if you're going to document something this small, and as they say, I guess, this is just a bookend, then where are the rest of the pictures? Because to me, that doesn't make sense. I know when I go out, and I delete a lot of pictures off my phone, but when I go somewhere and I like, because I love photography, I mean, I've got like probably 10 pictures of one bush on my phone on my yeah right now in my yard because I just liked the flowers. So you're telling me they're going all the way up there, they're walking on the way to the bridge, they're on the bridge, and this is all we get?
Yeah, that's what I said. I said that think there's only three photos. There's this one that's been entered. There's the next one. Let's show the next one. Okay. Well, let me just summarize it first. There's this one.
Okay.
Then there's Abby on the bridge,
Mhm.
which has not been found anywhere except the internet, and was a whole gaslight behind that. And
Yeah.
there's an empty bridge, just a photo of a bridge.
Right.
So you're telling me two girls out on a beautiful day, excited to go out, only take three photos, one of an empty bridge, one in this car in this upset moment, and then one of Abby looks photoshopped. And so I kind of whittled it down to the fact that there's only there's probably two reasons. One, this is all fakery and BS, or two, they're so extremely upset, they're not taking no photos because it ain't fun photo taking time. Because if
Yeah.
it's fun photo taking time, they're going to take 15, 20 to 50 photos.
Well, yeah, of
It's my
course.
opinion.
Yeah. Let me ask you, is chat moving on your end? Because it's not. It's been frozen for me.
Yeah, I see it. I see it. It's moving.
Okay, I got nothing over here. So
Uh-oh. I'm giving you another one. Let's see. This is
okay.
this is one of the other ones. Okay, there's several that, so they got this deal.
Okay, let me make this one bigger. Okay. Let me make this one bigger. Because what does this say? Okay.
Well, see, what I noticed about this was the notation on it. So this tells me this is being used to show time and
Mm-hmm.
place. Because see, it says February 13, 207.
Yeah.
So this is one of the exhibits that's now going to be see. This is like part two. See, they're here at this place and time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we've had three separate Photoshop experts all say this is faked. Literally.
Right.
We've had three out here in this YouTube world tell us this is absolutely indicative of photoshopping. It exhibits a lot of signs of photoshopping. And it
Yeah.
was never us to say it. We just say the feet look funny. But three professionals have said no, it's absolutely photoshopped. But it's a good job, basically. It's
Yeah.
a pretty good job. Okay. Let me remove that.
Okay.
I want to go back to the first one. Sorry. Because I
Okay.
thought of something else about this one. I thought about some stories. Okay. There's two stories that I thought about when I saw these faces. You see this level of looking like they're upset as if there's been an argument.
Yeah.
And then I thought about the rumors of an argument between these girls at the bridge at the drop off. So there's been this rumor of the sister arguing with these two girls at the drop off, of a vocal argument that was overheard. Then there's another rumor about an arguing couple under the bridge at a
Oh
later
yeah.
point.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, okay, so you got an argument that went to the level of screaming and yelling. Then you've got another argument that includes a male voice, allegedly, another rumor. So there's all these rumors of arguing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at these faces as if an argument has already happened. And it's kind of like, I don't know. It makes it kind of all fits in a way that this is sort of showing us an angle. We just don't know the full story. But for me, that gels with various stories of arguing. That looks like arguing has taken place and probably will some more. And I wonder with Libby's face here. This face almost tells me like I told you so, or do you see almost like I want you to see this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I thought that as well. Um, Very much a documenting thing. So, uh, yeah, I don't know. This one definitely was very upsetting. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess I guess it would be easier to believe some parts of the narrative if everything wasn't so rainbows and sunshine. You know what I'm saying? Because when you paint a picture of, okay, we got up, we had pancakes, dad fixed us pancakes, we were listening, we were singing and in the car, and it was, that's just over the top. I mean, do people have days like that? Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes you have a great day. But the truth is, most of the time, especially with sisters, you're going to argue. Um, and things aren't so good. I mean, it's not realistic to me, which is what is troublesome because it makes it sound more like a story, um, a, a made up story than rather than, you know what, uh, hypothetically, the girls woke up and they were grumpy because they didn't get enough sleep and, you know, that kind of thing. They ate some dry cereal and ran out the door. That makes more sense because we know
Mhm.
how life is. Life isn't like that.
Yeah,
Um,
why does this whole story have to be all sunshine and rainbows,
mhm.
princesses and
Glitter.
happiness and
Yeah,
glitter?
exactly. Yeah, it's like to
Is
me
nothing
that
real in this town?
right. That's the whole point is if they had said, well, yeah, I could respect even more of something like, I really didn't want to take them because I was aggravated. I didn't want to take them to the bridge. I wanted somebody else to. I tried to get out of it, like anything, which I know when somebody passes away, you don't want to say bad things, but in the effort to find the truth, you need to know what the whole mood was that day. And I just don't feel like I feel like we're just being duped.
Hmm. And it's been ongoing too. Like this is what I've noticed from the locals has been this constant push to paint this rosy picture of it all.
Mhm.
Like an idyllic town, you know, and the family's just perfect. And we want to play soft. The girls played softball. They didn't send nudes around the community. They just played softball and they did arts and
Yeah.
crafts. And you know, I think that this whole attempt to paint this in such a flowery fashion, people are starting to understand that that's not real life. And especially when we have friends of the girls coming and talking to us and friends of the family, and we have local meth heads who have um, rehabilitated, who have reached out to us and told us about all the methy underworld. And uh, did you just do that?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. That was a quick transition. Yeah, I know like the methy undercurrent that seems to be left out of this
Right.
when you paint this rosy picture. And then hearing from some of the former addicts and stuff and people who were dealing wheeling and dealing in the town, and they tell us the real deal. And no, this entire family was absolutely intertwined in the meth community and in the underworld and in the biker gangs. And you get a picture that's much more realistic, and girls with cell phones and boys who are predating and older boys who are predating and younger boys who are predating. And I think when we look at the realistic picture, it makes all of this impossible. And it starts, for me at least, it's like all of this manufactured evidence starts to crumble. And I guess that's what I would like to bring back around to Richard Allen, because people are so fired up about Richard Allen right now and they don't know anything. But it's not only have we have manufactured evidence in the court of law, you know, we've had manufactured evidence in the storytelling around this since day one. And that's just a fact.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
only now coming to light that people are getting comfortable to talk more.
I wonder if the people in Delphi I still don't think the people who have lived there this whole time are comfortable. Just my opinion. Maybe at least not publicly, maybe behind the scenes, some um but I don't know. I mean, as long as we keep poking the bear, and we have to. We have to for Richard Allen's sake and for Abby and Libby's. But I still think there is some danger for some people to tell the truth.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um I was glad to see, and I reposted this on X. There was a big rally at was it a week? About a week or so ago, people were at, I think, the Indiana State Capitol, and they were protesting really about, basically corruption in in law in the whole justice system. And I was like, hey, good, somebody's doing something. I don't know how much it actually got, how much coverage, but hey, uh, and that was just in general, not specific to Richard Allen. Um, yeah, and what Jay said earlier about uh, what was that? They were going to meet Anthony Shots. Wouldn't they have looked happy and excited? If you're going to meet this guy that they thought he was.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, it
Now, if you've already met him and you realize he ain't who he's, you might look like
yeah,
that. That's what I mean.
yeah,
We don't even know when the fuck this picture was taken, and we'll never know. We will
yeah,
never know.
probably not. Um,
um,
the Boogie Girl. What is Scott saying about that? I don't know.
that there's another female, and I agree. Here's one thing I'd like to add to that. Okay, we know the sister's hair is wrapped around the finger of Abby. Now, I wonder, were there girls involved in this crime? Because we know that there was never an attempt to look at female perpetrators in this crime. Never.
Yeah,
We now know that even when it comes to testing DNA, um, the total tunnel vision of law enforcement, where they had already decided this was a sexual crime and this was a man. So forget looking at females. And let me ask you, how many times have females killed other females?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, to me, it's ludicrous when you see all of the spots that DNA was on the bodies, on the clothes, and then it's just like unknown, unknown. Why are you? Look, don't even get me started about that. Why are we still unknown at this time? And why would you let it be unknown? I mean, I understand if there wasn't a big enough sample at one time, but there would be now with technology having, I mean, just really come across so much better in the last, 7 years. Come on.
I mean, let's be real here. Talking about DNA for me is like, listen, I'm sure Andrew Baldwin is a very nice guy. I am positive of it. And I'm sure he's very upset emotionally about the situation. I'm sure. And Brad Rossi probably mostly too. But I just sit back and I wonder, like, what was handicapping them? What was handicapping them from doing all that could have been done? Listen, they had Megan Allen's earrings, or at least they had earrings from Julie Melvin that were given to her by Tina Rodell, that Megan Allen brought home from the gang rape incident that happened at the same time, same place as these murders.
Hmm.
They didn't test those. They're in possession of them. Okay, they didn't test all of the body parts of the girls for all the DNA that could
Hmm.
have been tested, or all the clothing. And I just wonder, like, what I mean, we can fetishize all we want these attorneys and idolize them and all. Listen, they all fucked up. And I'm sure they will admit that. This is not about beating them up, because they will admit it. I'm sure they know they fucked up. But at this point, it's like, you got to wonder, you had all these females. I mean, you think about the people who we know were out there that day. It was mostly females.
Yeah.
I
And there
mean,
have
you
been a
think,
lot of cases, a lot, especially, teenage girls, a lot of cases in the last 10 years of girls unaliving other girls, jealousy, whatever, all kind of stuff. I mean, even younger ones with that whole, what was it, the shadow man or the thin man, the whatever. that case was. That was insane. But and the girls were much younger, so don't tell me that girls can't do it. Of course they can. But my again, and law enforcement is putting us in this position. So if you don't like it, law enforcement, think about who got us to this situation. When you have DNA and you say you didn't test it and it's unknown, then we as citizens have to assume that you didn't test it because either one, you already knew who it was, or two, you didn't want anybody else to know who it was. So now you've put us in this situation of saying, hey, something's not right. Law enforcement, I'm not just going to say they screwed up, I'm going to say they covered up. Because that's what it looks like. Now, if that's not what you did, law enforcement, then why didn't you do this years ago? Test it out, make it transparent. Even if the transparency is it's a big mess and we don't know, that's fine. That is fine. We don't have enough evidence. We really don't know what happened. It would have been much better for you to have said, "We know nothing. We've got all this evidence. We're not trying to hide it from y'all. We can't make any sense of it." I'd rather hear that than lies and cover-ups, because the only reason you're not transparent is because you want to hide something.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here all these years later.
All these years later. And truly, I believe it's a cover up by the community. Honestly, I've said it so many times. I've shamed the community, and I'm still going to maintain that. So, why would a community cover the murder of two of its own children? Well, the kind of a simple answer I come to is, well, if it means a whole bunch of their other kids go down, what if this was okay, hypothetically, who's to say this wasn't a girl fight? A bunch of girls. This could have been six girls on two, or eight on two, or four on two, or maybe four girls and a couple guys. And what if it's all kids, teenagers? And there was some
Could
big
be.
fucking fight, and the ended up with two girls dead. And now the parents also don't want these kids to go to jail over some fight. Or what if it was
Yeah.
there've been so many times that a bunch of girls jump a bunch of girls as part of a funny thing. It's supposed to be funny, or maybe it's graduation to another level of like acceptance in the group, where, oh, we all whipped your ass that summer, remember? And then you grow up to another level of the friend group. We don't know, but I know this: the fact that both of those girls, or neither of those girls, had any defensive wounds, and also no real clear indications of binding, tells
Mhm.
me there were multiple individuals, because someone had to hold those girls down while someone else was injuring them.
Mhm.
And I'll never not think that, because how else do you explain that there's not this instinct to stop a knife?
The only other way I could think of is if one, let's just say a man, for example, grabbed a girl, held her with one arm, and took the other. If he was behind her, but then I don't know, because we don't have the autopsy report. From what side? Where was the entrance wound? Where was the exit? Like from where to where? We don't know any of this. So we don't know if it was straightforward, if somebody's face to face doing those kind of wounds, especially I guess I'm referring to Libby more than Abby. But you know, how do we know? Because we don't. Were they behind? Were they in front? Because to me, that makes a lot of difference. And that was not brought up in the trial. Like, why not? Just these are the wounds, but that doesn't tell me a whole lot. And I mean, there was no talk of contents of the stomach. Like, I have to say, I was really disappointed in the lack of discussion, because for God's sakes, we talk about it more, the same
Oh, you
thing
mean at
over and
trial?
over.
You mean at
What?
trial? Do you mean at
Yeah.
the trial? Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. This is why I've criticized the defense. Because listen, nothing's off the table. No one's beyond criticism.
Hmm.
That especially those that actually had the chance to do things about it, and I'm sure that they are willing to take the criticism because they're good dudes. But I mean, the fact that they rested a week early when all of this, like you say, there's so much of this we talk all the time about that, like, none of this was brought up.
Right. And that's the that's the thing. Even if it is to establish truth, okay, maybe the banana pancakes had nothing to do with it, but the contents of the stomach, if somebody had brought that up about the autopsy, surely they checked that, then that would definitely establish a timeline or a verification of the narrative. Yes, Derek did get up and make banana pancakes. Well, where are they? Where's the pancakes? If they were unalived. Now, if the story is they were unalived at 2:30 in the morning somewhere else and brought to the scene, which a lot of us do think that is a big possibility, um, then the banana pancakes wouldn't be there. But the point is, there's so many places to that either side. If the prosecution knew the banana pancakes were in there, then they could have brought that up. It doesn't just have to be the defense. I mean, somebody should have been talking about this. Let's establish a timeline. So it seems like nobody really wanted to poke at that bear.
No,
You
and
know,
that's a huge point about it too, is that people have said, okay, there's these arguments. Okay, there's these arguments. It's not the defense's job to solve the crime. That's law enforcement. Yes.
mhm.
Okay. Yes. True. But I've also heard people say the only way that Richard Allen's going to get off is if they actually solve the crime, because unfortunately, ain't nobody else going to do it.
Right.
So, how do you weigh those? It's not their job to do it, but in some ways, the only way is they're going to have to prove who did. But
Well, I,
I
I
know it
say they
seems like
didn't.
they were so resistant. I mean, look, we can acknowledge, I fully acknowledge, and anyone who doesn't is insane. This judge made it impossible for them to do anything. Okay, so yeah, they were facing an uphill battle, but still, it seems like there was this reluctance to fight the state's narrative on this. And that, I mean,
Mhm.
other than the one point that there was a clear fighting of the state's narrative that a lot of people seem to forget, is they did intimate very specifically that those girls were not there when the search happened. They did make that established, okay, in the trial. But that's really the only place where the defense altered from the state's theory, is to say, yeah, we don't know about all this other stuff, but those girls weren't there during the search. But there's so much more to it. There's so much more to it. A lot of us, we even question if the girls were there at all,
Mhm.
which is a valid question.
Yeah, it certainly is. And that's the thing. I was disappointed, and I honestly, when I heard that the defense rested, I I either thought they think they have this in the bag and there's no need to do this, which is not, in my opinion, a good move. But either that or they already know what's going to happen. And like, why do this for another week and wear everybody out when we know the state is, I don't think that they would probably admit that. I wouldn't. But but you have to wonder, cuz I'm like, why? There are not any details to this. So if they did establish somewhat, that the girls weren't there, which we know, if you have half, even just half a brain, the girls were not there at the timeline. Well, that's at one point should exonerate Rick Allen, because the girls weren't there at the time of, supposedly at the crime scene at, whatever, 2:30 to 3:30. Richard Allen is not your man, period, because he goes home. But, like I said, all of the other things, I would have harassed the heck out of the prosecution, um, over autopsy stuff, for one thing. I would have harassed them about a bunch of things
Mm-hmm.
because I think when you, and this is just my opinion, um, but when you are not allowed to bring in third party defense and you are not allowed to give them any other theories, then, which, should be reason for a mistrial, one of many, but then you need to take that time. If you can't introduce that evidence, then you better hammer the heck and harass the heck out of the prosecution on every little detail. I mean, if you have ever been in court, which I have, like, attorneys yammer on, for 10, 15 minutes over a very insignificant point. It's like you are just harassing people now. Like, the jury is sick of it. The person on the stand is sick of it. The judge is sick of hearing it. Um, and I didn't see any of that kind of aggressiveness from them. And my question is why? Why not?
Why not? Yeah, exactly. And listen, I do know this is the hard thing because people will constantly say, well, the judge wasn't allowing anything. Well, yeah, that's true. But still, just think of what wasn't introduced into the record. This is the thing. And see
Mhm.
that, like you say, they came out with these statements. And this is where they make it difficult because we can't assume that they're telling the truth, right? It's because Baldwin
Mhm.
came out and he said, well, we just read the room wrong. That's why we rested. We read the room wrong. We felt every day we were having winning days and we reached a certain point and we thought it was enough. No, but is that true? Did you really just read the room wrong? Or did you just strategically give up for some reason? But I'm telling you, Silky, I'm not a violent person. But on that day when they rested, I literally was pacing around here ready to punch the walls. Ready.
Yeah,
I was like infuriated that they would have rested with no mention of the criminal underworld. There was no mention of meth
right.
dealing, Garrett Kurtz, the Kokomo crew, and the Megan Allen, and all those confessions, and their other confessions that are in discovery that have never been mentioned. They're like all these confessions
Mhm.
and all these other circumstances, they didn't even bring it to the table.
And, Judge Gull probably would have silenced that, honestly, because she did really everything that she wanted to without letting the defense present a real case. But I also feel like, some of the details, if they could have hammered down, such as, I'm going to bring it up again. What side of the neck did the knife start at? Whatever instrument it was. Because if you could establish front or back, you're going to tell me, okay, because then as a defense attorney, I would have had, you know, 5'4" person stand behind someone of Abby's size, and I would have tried to demonstrate, really, this is how this would have went. You know what I'm saying? It's things like that, a visual, that can make a jury really think, well, hey, hold the phone. This doesn't seem possible or probable, you know? I didn't hear, hold on, my camera's out of focus.
Oh,
Um it's going in and out. Yeah, but things like that, or just the logistics of what
well,
the
no, you're right.
prosecution.
It's the specificity is what I'm hearing you say. It's like
Yes.
we couldn't get them to nail down any specificity from the prosecution side, but this is where I go back to the criticism of the defense. Also, the defense would not. There were a lot of things they could have nailed down specificity on that they didn't.
Mhm.
So, like for instance, crime scene reconstruction. They could have done crime scene reconstruction, paid someone $8,000 or whatever it would have been to do a crime scene reconstruction whole deal and blah 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 blah. And that wasn't done. That should have been done.
Yeah.
You know, and like you say, the prosecution side with the medical examiner should have absolutely been able to get more specific about the handedness of of the perpetrator and all this, but he wouldn't. None of them would nail down specifics, and it's like, well,
Right.
goddamn, even if it does, it like there's nothing in the record. There's
Right.
nothing in the record to address specifics. So this is the gaslight, and we're all out here fighting each other like fucking idiots, you know,
Mhm.
over emotions because we're all traumatized from 8 years of bullshit from the family and the law enforcement and community.
Yeah.
When everybody just wants to get over with this, to be over, they want to get over it, get through this. Like, let's find what happened to these girls and move on. But they keep everyone like circling and biting their own tails, and it's infuriating. And then
Yeah.
it's like the trial ended up proving nothing. Like there was all we got from the trial was a few drips of this evidence that's dripping out. I mean, it's
Yeah.
bad. In my opinion, it's just bad. It's really bad. It's a bad situation.
Yeah. And you're right. It does, just the emotions that we all feel, when we positively believe that Richard Allen was is innocent, and at the very least he wasn't alone. Some people are still on the fence. Um, but you have all this emotion about this whole thing, and we put it, unfortunately, on each other. Let's, go attack another creator, or let's go get in the comments of somebody's ex or YouTube or whatever, and let's start a fight. Which is not productive for anybody. It's a waste of your time. It is a
Well,
complete
let's
waste.
mail some YouTubers some threatening mail in their post office box. Oh, or let's send them threatening emails. Yeah.
Yeah, because and it's like, why? We're we're semi on the same team. I know we all look at things differently, but I mean, come on. Come on. We have to stop this nonsense because there are too many things. And yeah, then my mind, Prof, I have to wonder. I question everything, literally everything. And I'm like, what if this whole thing, I don't think it is, but I don't know. I'm beginning to think, when I look at all of the things that the defense did not put up in trial, I'm like, was this all a giant psyop?
I
Like,
know that
are they
this
really
whole
all
case
on the
is
same
psyop.
side?
I'm sorry, I got to fuss at Ashley Loren. This is a false talking point, Ashley. Listen, just because this is a true point doesn't mean this is why they rested a week early. Don't get it twisted, because when you're believing shit like this as fact, you're taking a bullet point that might be factual, which is that the defense didn't want Kathy on the stand. Let's correct you on that. It's not about Rick. It's the Rick, maybe, but the defense didn't want her on the stand. And secondly, no, that's not the reason they rested early, because there was a lot more than Kathy to put on the stand. So let's get you right, Ashley. We appreciate you for being here, but we get you right. That's why you come around. Sorry, Susie, Silky. One
No,
of my
but
best friends, let me tell you something. One of my best friends growing up when I was a kid was Susan. Susie,
oh,
we
really?
called her. So she's like one of my besties when I was a kid. So you're kind of like that in real life now, but you're another S, but you're a
Yeah,
Silky, not a Susie.
yeah.
So
That's okay.
apologize.
I call my daughter by my cat's name occasionally. So, it is what it is. My mom did the same thing. It's okay. Um, but no, do you ever wonder though, Prof? And here's my tinfoil hat. I wonder sometimes, is the whole thing a psyop? Is it kind of like they were really all on the same side from the very beginning, and they just, because you have to think,
Well,
why
that's
did
what
when you
I'm
start
saying.
questioning what?
This is what I'm saying about controlled opposition is the elephant in the room. Now, what does that mean? See, there's more than one way to have controlled opposition.
Yeah.
You can kind of control others. Anyone who's smart can kind of exercise some sort of control over
Mhm.
others' behavior, and you could control opposition in that way by limiting what they can do or maybe influencing to go a certain route. So I believe that at a bare minimum we do have controlled opposition, and the depth of it or the level to which it goes, well, that's still up for discussion.
Yeah.
But I think the end effect is that Richard Allen indeed was railroaded. He is the attempt was to do a Barry job on Delphi, and it was it was it was a PR control of the entire prosecution side and the controlled opposition together that made this all possible. So how are we going to fix it? To me, fixing it, it has to be that we never let this up. Okay, because
Yeah.
there's no way I believe that Rick Allen is a lone wolf sexual predator killer of these two little girls. I think
No.
it's absolutely impossible.
Mm-mm. Yeah. I think even if he wanted to be, which I don't, but even if he wanted to be, I think it would have been physically impossible for him to do what he did. Two girls cross a creek in the freezing cold. Well, I mean, we've talked about that before. It's ludicrous. The whole narrative doesn't make sense for one person. It wasn't a one person job. Period.
Yeah. And you would have left defensive wounds. Just think about one
Yes.
guy trying to hold back another girl and slash a knife or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's not going to happen. And I mean, even the state said that in the beginning, even after his arrest. But then all of a sudden they decided, no, we're just going to prosecute Richard Allen uh, and say he did this. Well, that doesn't make sense. You're contradicting yourself. Things like this. And here's another point I think that they could have raised just because Bridge Guy, and maybe they didn't think that Bridge Guy was going to be such a big deal, since, according to, and y'all saw the last live that we did, where three different creators were in the courtroom and said he was a tiny speck, and some said, I didn't even see him. They had to point him out. And so we're watching the enhanced version, and it's now what is scary to me, though, Prof, about that is that this is the enhanced version, and I understand why people want to see it or want to show it that way, but that is not the truth. So, what happens when all of a sudden what's not true becomes the truth? I mean,
Yeah.
you
Well,
see it.
you're talking about the leak
Yeah,
that the defense side did. Yeah. We still don't know because we're still waiting on those thumb drives with all of the videos of this bridge guy.
yeah. And you have
Um,
all of these, knuckleheads on here saying, looking at the distance between Abby and Bridge Guy, and you're like, and well, of course, some really non-thinking amoebas are like, "Oh yeah, he's really short. Look how short he is. Yeah, he's way behind." Okay, whatever. You
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 can't,
don't.
we have, yeah, it's all useless.
Yeah,
Oh.
but the thing of it is you have all these people making these comments, and you're forgetting that none of this is actually real, according to the statements of the people in the courtroom with the original video. So all this is crap. It's all made up.
Well, see
Why
that,
are we
and
taking
that's why I
this
was
back?
bitching about it. And honestly, I want to double down on this for all the people who are going to clip this shit and run with it to try to anger people. Listen, the reason I bitched about it and raised hell is because it's counterproductive.
Mhm.
Because let's say this is the enhanced version, and you're putting it across that it's the original.
Right.
Well, suddenly you've let everybody extinguish that initial energy that was so fiery to get at
Mhm.
this thing, and you've just spent all of their like assertive energy in diving deep into that. And then if it turns out that it was a lie, and then there is another that actually is the original, or then it's like diluted the waters. And then
Mhm.
let's say it's the other way around. Let's say it is the original, and you dripped it with nothing to compare it to, no abs we can put up. Well, then suddenly you've caused another problem, and you had this whole controversy over where's this coming from. So in all ways it defeats the purpose of leaking it. And that's why I felt that the right way to do it is, you specifically, if you're going to leak it, put it out specifically. And if you're not going to do that, well, maybe why not leak them all? Leak that one, leak the
Yeah.
enhanced, and leak the little 3 second. clip that goes around with the blow up a bridge guy. Whatever you're going to do it in a way where you get the most mileage out of it in its first presentation, because as we're still going to get stuff. So as this stuff comes, it's important that it comes from the court and is presented from an authority. That way we can look at an authoritative version and know what we're actually discussing. And I'm waiting for more, because I just have found it odd that of the multitude of exhibits that are going to really be intense to look at, for instance, all the videos from Westville, which are going to be important to deep dive into. Okay. It's going to be very important to deep dive into everything from Westville, because there's going to be proofs of human right abuses. Well, why don't we have that? Why do we have other stupid shit like you've seen they released all these bullet photos, okay, photos of bullets with absolutely no accompanying information to be able to put next to it to know what the argument was with these particular photographs. So it's a
Mhm.
lot of bullshit, and this whole community has done a lot of bullshit, and I see them in the chat right now. There's people bullshitting in the chat right now, listen, making false arguments. It's like, no, the fact that I stopped leaks by drawing attention to the stupidity of the way it was being leaked is an accomplishment. Okay. Stupid leaks that are counterproductive to this community don't need to happen. You want to leak it the right way. Okay. And if you can't leak it the right way, then you should just be patient and wait the extra 2 weeks to have it presented the right way, so that we all have the ability to present it to the world the right way and argue it or debate over it effectively. And if you until you guys can acknowledge that you made mistakes, you'll get nowhere. Okay, you'll continuously be wrong because you want to double down on your mistakes rather than admit that it was the dumb way to do it and that there are better ways to do it. And so I'm waiting for the trial exhibits, to truly come from the court, so we can look at that. Maybe we should look at the videos from the bridge guy or from the victim's phone. Maybe we should look at all the videos from Westville and be able to present it to the world properly. But people don't want to, you know, people don't want to cooperate on simple things like that, because there's some sneaky agenda to do things in some sort of self-serving way. And I'm sorry for any of you who are okay with that. I'm going to continuously fight against it. And if that's the war you want to fight, that's the war we'll have.
What worries me about this, Prof, is that I feel like, and if I had just seen it as a leaked video, okay, that's one thing. But I saw that video, and I'm not going to say where, but it was a national program, okay, mainstream media, using that video, and making points about it and talking about this and that. What I'm afraid of is that enhanced video is going to now become, it's going to rewrite history, so to speak. Okay, everybody sees this and says, oh, this is the video, and he was that close to Abby, when actually he wasn't, according to the witnesses. But if that is buried and all we see is this, and even the national news outlets using this video, then you're rewriting history. And now it's going to be so much easier. I mean, I still think there's a lot of problems, but it's so much easier if he does go to trial again to say, hey, he was right there. But if he wasn't, okay, because here's the thing. If he was a tiny speck, like they said, in the background, now my question is, Prof, who the heck were they talking to at the end of that video?
I don't know, and it doesn't even seem to be anxious to me. It's just also
No.
complicated. And a huge problem that I have that I'd like to say now, because I think it bears repeating, is they've created this monster called
Hmm.
Bridge Guy. It's a
Yeah.
monster. He's a monster. He's the monster on the Monon. He's a bridge guy. He's a faceless, featureless, ambiguous, generic monster that they are asserting Lone Wolf killed these two girls. How the hell do they know
Mhm.
that? Where's the proof that even happened? What's the proof that this is even a monster? I mean, this whole fantasy, this is why I've always said people need to wipe the slate of what they think might have happened and go from reverse. Go to start at the finding of those bodies. All we know is that at some point after noon on the 14th, there was an announcement made. We found two bodies. And
Mhm.
now they show us photos, and the bodies are awkwardly posed with sticks on them, and they say, well, there's nothing to see here. It's just the sticks are just there to hide the bodies. But you can kind of discount that. And so you start reverse
Yeah.
engineering, like you find two bodies at one point, and then they kind of look like this. And then the last thing you know is there's some kind of stories about how they got out to that area, and that there's hundreds of people searching, never find them. And as I start reverse engineering the
Mhm.
story, it's not that I get any more answers, but I'm actually able to wipe away distractions like the bridge guy. And sure, that
Right.
guy may be a perpetrator, but it doesn't start there. It's just one of the things that comes into focus is, yeah, that's one of the pieces on the chessboard, is this bridge guy character, this anonymous monster. Um, anyway, I want to say something really quickly. Everybody on my channels, please go subscribe to Silky. I don't know if you can put your
Thank
link
you.
up, Silky. Silky's
I think
channel.
Amy did. Amy did
Oh,
earlier.
did Amy? Where is it?
Mhm.
Let's see. I want to
It's
put it up on the
way, way, way
screen.
back in the chat.
Oh, would Amy, would you put her Silky's channel again? Silky's channel is called Silky Southern Tea. And I would like all of my subscribers to know that they can go subscribe to Silky. While you're all here watching, take the 2 minutes and go subscribe to Silky. And if you're on Silky's channel, I'm over here at the Prof. And
Yes.
but I want to put up Silky's link, please, one of the mods. Yeah. So I don't know, Silky. That's my attitude is pretty pessimistic right now about everything. I'm optimistic in the long run if we
Mhm.
never stop talking about this, but I'm
Right.
pessimistic as far as where we are because I think everyone got duped. The prosecution side friendly people got duped, and I believe the defense contingent got duped. We all got duped. Okay. So it's back to square one. Oh, thank you, Amy. Okay, Amy put it up. Let me get it. Let's see.
Thank
I want to.
you. Thank you. Yeah, I do cover Delphi. I cover a lot of other things too. Um, so but I've got a huge Delphi playlist. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah, I see
Um,
Silky Southern Tea. So just YouTube at Silky Southern Tea.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. The more I think about things, I think, I was in the state of shock after the trial for so many reasons. And, we couldn't see it. So we were relying on people to give us the notes. But after that happened, I think, just in shock. Like, I already knew, what do we do now? Well, we appeal. Of course, we appeal. That wasn't it. It was, and now that the dust has settled and I really start thinking about things, I'm like, there was so many things wrong with that trial on the defense side. And I I I feel like I don't know the truth. I just do. I feel kind of duped myself. Like, why do I have more questions than answers? A trial should be, I mean, my God, y'all remember some of these trials? I mean, I guess maybe just because I've watched true crime cases for years and years, it's like these trials they get to the point where they're so boring. It's the same point hammered over and over, and we're talking about weeks and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, this trial didn't even go like this. Not from either side. Not even from the prosecution side. And I'm just very unsettled, Prof. Again, about everything, and I'm kind of back to square one. Trust no one. Trust no one. Do your own research. Think for yourself, um, and
Hmm.
consider all possibilities, because
Hmm.
I'm there.
Yeah, I mean, I think a fatal error is believing the state's narrative and timeline of what happened. Because if you start with that, and I'm not saying this, the Richard Allen part, take Richard Allen out of it. I'm saying the state's theory of the crime and the timeline. I think
Mhm.
a fatal error is thinking that that's anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I understand. How do lawyers have to work? Well, you have to argue or defend against what the prosecutor is claiming. So, yeah, there's that. Okay. Don't get it twisted. But I'm saying for all you free thinkers who are not arguing the case in court, think about it that if you take the state's timeline and the state's narrative for granted as what happened, and you just want to put in some, you want to substitute some other POI, that's a fatal error. Because I don't believe that's at all what happened ever. I think this entire story, we still don't know it. We don't know the
No.
story.
No. I agree.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just refreshing this because for whatever reason, it's just not moving. I don't know.
I want to say
Hello,
hello to
I.
everyone who's coming in. A lot of people are coming in. Country Boy 48, Sandra Rowley, everyone who's come in is a God thing. I don't know. Everyone who's come in, I have Apophis. No, I will not. A lot of people have come in. Welcome all here. Like I said, please go subscribe to Silky's channel if you're in my channel. And yeah, let's see.
There's no telling what we'll be talking about on my channel. I cover a lot of different things, but Delphi heavily, heavily.
Do you know how long we've been live? Is there a timer here?
Yeah, we have been live 1 hour and 37 minutes.
Oh, good. Okay, good, good. Thank you. All right, maybe we can look at some chats for a moment. I'll try to pull some up. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's start with one. Hmm.
Okay, wait. Oh, hey, Christina. Oh, wow. Does anybody have this video? Do you have this video?
No, but I mean, I know the statement to be true because think back to the press release by ISP when they say that the old guy sketch is no
Mhm.
longer the new guy sketch,
Right, right.
and that no longer a person of interest, which indicates that it's a separate person and has been cleared. So yeah, it adds up.
Right. And another point, and I think I mentioned this last time, the interview, and I always forget his name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The interview or the press conference where law enforcement said, you have the picture of Bridge Guy, you have the voice. And he distinctly says they are not necessarily the same person.
Hmm.
And that one's still out there. Um, I'm like, okay, again, this is another point that could have been hammered on by the defense. Okay, well, you're saying that they might not even be the same person, but all of a sudden, voila, they are according to this video. But you've had this video since the very beginning. I would have questioned everything, eh, because even though it's small, when you start building, you know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
That's a weird one. Now
I
that's
know.
the countryest damn phrase you've ever said. All right.
Well, but that's true. So if you're gonna present a case, even, and I say this again because I've watched so many dadgum court cases, trials. You take one little thing, but it's the totality of all of it. Yeah, this one little point he said this, but if you just let that slide, you hammer on this point and then you hammer on that point. When the jury comes together, they've got all these notes of, oh, okay, well, you know what? There's this. It's not just this one point, it's this one and this one and this one and this one. So it's all these bites that add up to your elephant.
Hmm.
And
You
I,
know
I
what? I want to show something else. Let's see if I can handle this. Let's see.
okay.
Show another one. Okay, which one is it? It's this one. Perfect. 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 Okay. All right. I don't know if you've seen this one yet, but I talked about this last night on my part one of this show. Um, Let me hide this comment so people can see my face. Sorry, end of the line. All right. Okay. Now this shows the distance from the point of the video, which you see, this video happens. Uh, this is real stupid how they did it, honestly. Okay, if you look at the red letters where it says location of video and contact with suspect, okay,
Mhm.
at the bottom of the photo,
Yeah. Let me
you
put
could
my
draw a
glasses on.
straight line from that point to where the bodies are found, where the GPS coordinates are at the top.
Mhm.
But for some reason, they put the yellow line like an inch over where it says 509 feet.
Yeah.
Um, but what I'm saying is that if you imagine from where that video was taken to where those bodies were found, look at it. You've got one, two, three, four, five, six, about 7 or 8 trees.
Mhm.
So think of how close that is, because those trees are touching, most of them. That's 500 feet. So you're
Yeah.
telling me basically from the bridge to where those bodies are found is 508 feet. That's a very short distance. It's only 8 trees away at the most. There's zero leaf.
Mhm.
Not a leaf on the tree.
Right.
The ground cover is uniformly brown, which I've been saying. Okay, look at them, uniformly brown,
Mhm.
which means anything that's not brown is going to stand out from the aerial vehicle like a helicopter or a drone.
Yep.
So you imagine Libby's nude and pasty white,
Mhm.
Abby's clothes, which is also not brown. So
Right.
you're going to have something white and something brown in clothing that's not brown,
Mhm.
that's going to stand out against this background. And these bodies are only that far away. And on top of that, I've said so many times that if you're on the trail, okay, this one trail leads you across this bridge, the other trail splits off before the bridge, leads you right down to where these bodies are found. So either way, I don't know. It just makes zero sense. And then you're supposed to have clothing in the water this whole time, and
Mhm.
nobody sees that either. So
Right.
nobody
The
sees a body.
tie-dyed shirt. Come on. The tie-dyed shirt. You're not gonna see that.
But look at the barren trees. You know what I mean? You
Mhm.
got barren trees at that close of a distance, and you've never gotten a straight answer about the number of searchers out there. It varies from 20 to 200.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of searchers, and I made the point that they are volunteer firemen, they're water search and rescue, they're grown men, they're cops, they're adult male family members who are hunters and
Mhm.
sportsmen and motorcycle riders. These are not incapable city folks or old ladies from the nursing home.
You're right. Yeah, that's what I've said too. And look, don't tell me, um, that people are not just random searchers. They are going to walk the shoreline. You are going to do that if you don't feel comfortable on the trees, but somebody that's the first place you're gonna look is in the water, for God's
Perfect,
sake.
perfect observation. I never think to say that, but yeah, you're going to walk the banks to be looking
Mhm.
for drowned girls. You thinking maybe one fell in? Yeah,
Yeah.
just
And
makes no
so
sense.
you're walking the banks and, and they're like, "Okay, well, they were 50 feet away and it was a bowl and all this kinda stuff and it was dark." I get that, but then we're coming back to the clothes. People are walking the banks and they don't see the clothes, the
No.
tie-dyed shirt, the bright thing sticking out like a sore thumb. You don't see that?
And they don't see like I hate to keep saying it, but it's true. Like you've seen the crime scene photos. That
Yeah.
Libby's body is like glowing white because she's
Mhm.
she's bloodless,
Yeah.
and it's also whatever 30 degrees or whatever overnight. So
Right.
she's basically pasty white. I had a funny comment I want to bring up. Look, Sweet Dude Shibby says, Silky, do you sedate Prof when you come on? He's so calm in your presence. That's because she's my bestie. She's like my high school bestie, bub. Come on, dude. I guess she has a calming effect on the. I yell way less.
Oh my gosh. No, that's funny though. Um, and I see, sometimes I get wound up on my own channel and I get really mad. Um, but I haven't screamed. I don't know. I've screeched a few times. Um, but no, I think it's just because when we talk, we're trying to talk sense, basic basic common sense, and we're in a discussion. We're like this on the phone too, because I think the first time that we ever had a phone conversation was like, I don't even know when. It was so many months ago. Um, Long time. But if you remember, Prof, we were on the phone for 5 hours. 5 hours.
Really? That's
Yes.
how we met.
Yeah. So, yeah, because actually uh who told me? Somebody said Prof wants to talk to you. I actually thought you were going to be mad at me about something, and I was like, "Oh God."
The hell would I be mad at you about?
I
Come on.
can't remember what was going on at the time. I really can't remember, but I thought, Prof is gonna yell at me about something. And
Ooh.
but I answered the phone, and it was a number I didn't have your number, I don't think, at the time. I was like, "Oh, I bet that's Prof." And he was so nice, and I was like, "Oh, I guess he's not mad at me." Um and yeah, so we talked for 5 solid hours. Sure did, about everything about Delphi. Just our thoughts and our opinions, what we knew, what people had told us, what we're not saying, to protect some people, and all that kind of stuff.
Ladies, you ain't getting 5 hours out of me. Sorry. I ain't got the time.
What happened to you, Prof? We don't get idiots as often.
Oh, I see. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, you don't get idiot. I'm way calmer. Like I say, I yell way less when Silky's on. Hey, look, I got sent something. Let me try this, Silky. Okay. So
Okay.
everyone understand my let me move K. Thank you, K. You're so sweet. Okay. Everyone sees this, and what we're
Mhm.
saying is look at how close. Look at where the thumbtack is, the pin, where the bodies were found, and look at how close this bridge is. It's literally 5 trees away from the creek. Okay, so let me I want to pull up something. They just sent me something that's going to tie back to what we were saying. Let's see. See
I'm
if I
gonna
can
look at
manage this
something
one.
too.
Sorry for uh sorry for doing this. There it is.
Hold on. Oh, well, there you go.
But like I said, the ISP press release says the same. And thank you. I want to thank you to the gentleman who sent me that. Always a helpful young man, if I do say so myself. Um, no,
I
y'all.
was
I mean, this is a this community here. This is what I'm getting at. Is it's infuriating. It's traumatized from years of gaslighting, and
Mhm.
everyone needs to check their emotions at the door. This is not an emotional situation anymore. We need to get over that. Okay.
Yeah, we really do, because I'm gonna I'm gonna throw up some stuff here. Wait, I'm I'm in my Canva, but I'm gonna share this because you can see it. Um you can actually see this on the. I was looking at some of the photos that they released. All right, I'm gonna share a screen for just a second. Um,
Awesome.
I'm just gonna throw this up here because I know people are gonna be like me, whatever. But just I've brought this up before. Um, Let me screen share this. There are tunnels here. Okay, let me So you're looking at all my Canvas stuff. Let me just make this small. Um, right here, and if you'll look, all right. And people cannot say, I've heard so many things. The tunnels are closed. The tunnels aren't closed. This is a topography map. But I was noticing when I was looking at the exhibits, you can see these tunnels do show up in one of the maps, but they are right, literally just a little bit up and over to the right of where the bodies were found. Now, if I'm just saying this, hypothetically, if those girls were there and we know they weren't alive at that time, could they have been hidden somewhere up in here? I mean, it's
No, no,
possible.
nope. I've been there and walked that ground.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it's not like it looks in that map. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, there's it's more like ditchy or whatever you want to call it. It's I mean their body. Here one of the theories that okay, so the troll farm comes up with this theory. They say the bodies weren't found because they were in a depression. So I would say, well, there is some sustenance to that, but not in terms of where they were ultimately found. You could say there are depressions exactly where you were pointing and all along in that area where,
Mhm.
yeah, you could hide some dead bodies in those ditches and depressions, but not living girls unless they were held at gunpoint or something. It's senseless. It's senseless. I'm confident they were away somewhere else. They were not there. They were somewhere else.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I see in the comments, I have a puff that says, J. Kyle Keener said he saw the clothes from 75 yards away. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Once again, things that could have been hammered on by the defense. This makes no sense. Even those exhibits right there would show you, as I always said, because I'm used to woods. Hold on, let me focus my camera again. Um, I'm a country girl. I know
how
very
far?
well. I mean, I grew up in the mountains. And when I say the mountains, I mean the mountains in the back of what we call a holler. Um, and I was in the woods like back in those days. We didn't have cable, so you know what I did? I stayed outside all the time. I am very familiar with how mountains and lakes and streams and rivers are like in all four seasons. And during the winter, there is no cover. There is no cover. So you can see very long distances and see aberrations. So, yeah, you're right. Some of the searchers would have probably not been familiar with woods, but a lot of them were. Anybody who was familiar with woods and how it generally looks, you would really quickly see an aberration like a jacket or a body or clothes or anything. Your eyes pick it
Know
out
that.
quickly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. And literally, the only place you can hide in woods is in deep ravines or behind big ass trees. Whoever, if you've ever tried to hide in the woods, there's
Mhm.
only two options. Okay,
Somebody's
let's see.
backstage, Prof. Who is that?
Oh, I see. Uh, do you that looks like Christine. Do you want to have her on? Let's
Sure.
see.
Let me
Let's
take
see
this
if
off.
yeah, I'm sorry that there you go. We're done.
All right, let me get back to this screen. Um, Let me take this off and I will put you up there. Let's see. Hold on. Why can't I find there we go. Let me hide that. All right. And
Hello.
She took over.
hello.
All you can see is my head. Hold on.
I know. I'm gonna try to change this a little bit. There we go.
Hello,
Okay.
Christine.
Hi,
There
how's
we
it
go.
going?
Okay, welcome.
Hey, nice to meet
Thank you.
you.
Nice to meet you too. I will do my best to help out whatever way I can.
Okay.
I'm adjusting you a little bit. Camera trouble, you know.
Oh, we've been having trouble all night.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's went well though. You guys have all been easy to hear and the screen's coming across well.
Okay, good. Good.
So I
So
don't know if you know who I am.
I
I
don't. I
I was
don't.
a private investigator on the defense side of things. I'm not now, but I was up until um, right when sentencing happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of a secret weapon, I suppose. That's one way to look at it.
So let me ask you this. I mean, what you've heard probably some of what we've been talking about, and certainly what Prof has been talking. What comments do you have? Like, have we gotten it right, wrong?
Everybody's kind of gotten it right because we still don't have it solved, right? I
Right.
mean, we did what we did. I did what I did. I did as much as I could do. And then, we let the lawyers do the lawyering and we got the outcome that we got. So I can say that there's more coming out, even today. So we still have people coming forward that weren't ready to talk before for whatever reason that might have been. And now they're feeling more comfortable and like they have something to add. So we are still, clearing and unclearing, a lot of unclearing. So like, you kind of would assume that towards the end of things that things would be more clear.
Mhm.
Uh, in my world, they are not.
Okay.
So like, there's still like I have a pretty good idea who I think probably did it, but I don't know. You know what I mean? It's not until all the minds get together and look at things as a whole that we might get close. Part of the reason that I departed from the from actually working with the defense is simply because it freed up my time and my energy and my effort to like look at who did it rather than um, stay foxholed into defense work really is about reasonable doubt and all of that.
Mhm.
um, and we uncovered it just by sheer accident other dirt that is in Delphi. And so that community deserves like somebody to come along and try to clean up the mess
Yeah.
there. And so, I've done some of that, but everything that you guys have said so far, you know, we can only talk about what has been presented, right? So there are still seals like the autopsy is off the table, the crime scene, the photos of the crime scene are off the table. Like there's still things that we can't say. So sometimes I sit and I watch people and that's the hardest part of the job is to watch inaccuracies um,
Yeah.
get often repeated because somebody comes up with a good idea and then you just kind of run with it and then everybody starts running with it. And so I mean there are some things that aren't quite there. But for the whole, like on the whole, everybody's pretty much they're getting it. Like little pieces might be off here and there. Um, but the whole feeling about what happened there is probably right. And when you guys talk about organized crime. That that's definitely that's definitely something that we came across. A lot of it.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
little bitty old Delphi, there's only a couple thousand people that live there.
Hmm.
Right.
And little bitty old Delphi's got some scary folks living there. Um, but time will tell, I suppose, on exactly what their involvement has been. Um, and we get clearer and clearer every day. Um, you know, it's still work, and because we're professionals, we have to sometimes stay professional,
Mhm.
and that means we can't roll in the muck, which
Hmm.
that's the hardest part, is because I like
Yeah.
to throw blows. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I would love to be able to just like scream
Yeah.
scream facts from the rooftop. I swear like a sailor. So like I would love to be able to do that.
Time will come, though. Time will come.
And I just can't. Yes, time will come.
Christine, can I
After
ask a question? Because I already know the answer, but I want to prod you into this direction because
Sure,
I'm a shit starter. Um,
right?
would it be fair to say that there have been there has been information that has surfaced in the course of all this that you've discovered that has been forwarded to the feds?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
Several agencies, more than one.
More than one. Yeah. So
More than one.
so there's so many big stories that have surfaced
Correct.
that we can't talk about yet, but that due to this having to look closely into this community of, like you say, 2,000 or whatever people,
Mhm.
that so much has turned up that there's been a handful of instances that you had to forward to federal authorities because of the gravity of it.
Yeah, we've had contact with the FBI, the DEA, Homeland Security has been, that was out of left field, but that happened. Um, there's been, there was something overseas, so the Secret Service was involved for a little bit. Um, there's just been stuff. But when you go poking and prodding into the lives of, you know, racists and meth dealers, you're gonna find those
And
things.
domestic terrorists. I guess my point
And
is there
domestic
is a
terrorists.
criminal underworld that is widespread and powerful in
Very much so.
Indiana. Yeah.
Correct. We
And some
came
of the
across
parties tied
lots of,
into Delphi investigation in general, I guess.
correct. Yeah, we
And that's
came
where I want to
across
say,
a
I
lot of
want to shout out to
evidence.
Rafi. It's a God thing is mentioning Rafi. I don't know if you know Rafi, Christine, but Rafi for
I do.
years has had his finger,
Mhm.
his thumb on these people,
Yeah.
saying the
Mhm.
same thing, and he's not wrong.
No,
Okay.
he's not wrong.
Shout out Rafi.
No.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not wrong.
I know he changes his channel sometimes. I've
Mhm.
always been a fan of Rafi. I mean, I know it's been controversial sometimes as far
Yeah.
as other people's thoughts, but I
Mhm.
I very much respect Rafi. Christine, that's what I thought when I first started looking at this case and seeing all the unsavory characters in a town that small. It's mind blowing. I mean, yeah, in my area, I'm sure we have our fair share. I know we do of people in all these different, boxes. But when you're talking about, less than 3,000 people, I mean, my area is way bigger. And I'm how do you even, you can't, it's like I said, you can't swing a cat without coming across a suspect. Literally somebody who could have been there that day and was the perpetrator. Um,
Correct.
it's insane to me how many criminals there are in and around Delphi.
So it's not even really just Delphi. So there's Rushville and there's Rougeville and there's Indianapolis. And then you have all the multiple jurisdictions that have been involved and watching things from even before the murders.
Hmm.
and then we span different states. There's been things that led us to several other states, and it just kind of it grows a it's like a ball rolling downhill. It
Mhm.
just gets bigger and bigger and bigger the further you get in. But then some clarity comes and you're like, okay, well, this is bad, but I can separate it from the deaths of these two girls. So there's like a process that you go through. There was so much discovery that I spent almost a year doing nothing but reading and trying to watch YouTube videos on 2 times speed. Like it
Mhm.
was it was just so massive. And you can kind of see, because the way that our discovery came, it came in chronological order. So you can see what they thought from the very beginning. Like from day one, you could tell who was in the hot seat. And as the weeks went by, it varied a little, but man, some people stayed there in that questionable status for a really long time. Um,
Hey,
and
Christine,
then,
can I ask you a
yeah,
complicated question? Yeah.
sure.
Um, so, okay, would you say there were lots of POIs in this investigation from
Oh
your
my God, yeah.
knowledge?
Yeah, a lot.
And would you say of those many POIs that there were any who were better suspects than Richard Allen?
Oh, all of them.
Yeah.
All
I
of
knew
them.
that was coming.
Yeah.
And that's like not even me being biased. Rick didn't tick off, the BAU did a workup on what they thought this suspect was going to be. And Rick didn't tick off any of those boxes. But
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
you had probably 20 other people that were just, you go down the list and you're like, yep, 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 and maybe. You know, Rick, on the other hand, he didn't fit. He's got
See,
no history of violence. Um, he's not a hunter. He's like, Rick is just not what they were looking for at all. And I
I
don't know how he was manufactured to be.
court of public. I have something I want to say, but first I want to do this. Court of public opinion, who's a good friend of mine,
Hmm.
says, were there any law enforcement officers suspected?
Yes. Not like good suspects, but yeah, there were like tips called in about law enforcement. There
Yeah.
were tips called in about teachers, doctors, police, lawyers, judges. Like it, people were calling in about their sons, their dads, their uncles, their mama's ex-boyfriend from 5 decades ago.
Mhm.
Like there was a full gambit of people to choose from along the way. But I don't recall there being law enforcement that like stayed the focus of the investigation,
Mhm.
but the public, on the other hand, was real interested in some officers' doings.
And I'd like to
So
let
there were
everyone
a lot of,
know, like, a lot of people might not understand Christine's particular specialty in this entire thing, but as far as I understand, like the one place where Christine shines is that she had uh, great access to all of the tips.
who did.
So when it comes to her particular forte, is in what it's in what was entailed in all of the local and federal and all in between tips that came in on this case for 7 years, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, that
therefore
is where I
she's
focus.
able to really comment on that pretty specifically. Um, but what I wanted to say to add to this thesis, I think, is that I have this theory that there's a reason that there's this festering in Indiana. Kind of funny because my buddy Noe. You girls know my buddy Noe.
Mhm.
It's a love hate relationship because Noe's a fighter. So it's like
Mhm.
we have the best times, the worst times. But Noe has this thing where he says like it's all the white supremacists or the KKK,
Mhm.
and that's a place where I really pick up and run with the ball. And I say, yeah, what I see in knowing this and reading books on the area and the history is that this was a literal stronghold of the KKK power structure, which is part of the Masonic power structure going back 200 years.
It
And
is.
so,
I live in this area. Not close. I'm about an hour and a half or so from Delphi. Hour and a half on a good day. Um, but we all knew not to take certain people down there, especially after dark. Like it just wasn't going to be safe. So it's not like it's been a secret. Everybody
yeah.
knows where the sundown towns are.
Mhm.
And Delphi kind of got thrown into that. Rushville is absolutely a sundown town.
Oh,
You
wow.
just you get out of there before it gets dark because it's not welcoming, you
And I guess
know.
I guess my theory with that is not so much that it's these days that it's a public facing racist enterprise, but that those roots became
Hmm.
the power structure in civil society. So they became the mayors, the lawyers, the judges, the business owners, the entire power structure of society. And so as it matured and it morphed into like the 2000s and the current times, what you're seeing is it's still the same. And when I'm looking at this whole thing with Delphi, and I see how the prosecutor and the family members, certain ones, and the lawyers and the judges and the whatevers, and the white supremacists who are public facing, like the whole thing kind of turns into this network that actually makes sense in my mind because historically it matured into that, and now this is where Richard Allen found himself in the midst of this network that's so tight knit that he could get caught up in this. There's nowhere to run really because the judge is working with the prosecutors, working with the families, working with the business owners, is working with the contractors, with the specialists, and it's all one thing. And if that potentially ties to these Vinlanders or your Aryan Brotherhood or whatever you want to call them, who might be part of the criminal
Hmm.
element, they would have a reason to protect each other and have these strong
Mhm.
bind, uh, uh, bonds. You
Hmm.
know,
One of the things that I was wrong. Now I know I was wrong, but I always thought of the neo-Nazi. That's my word, but like all of these white prejudiced racist organizations and the cartel. I always thought that they would find each other on very different ends of the spectrum. And one thing that I have learned over a couple of years is when money is involved, the cartels don't mind messing with the Nazis. And the Nazis don't mind messing with the cartel
hmm
because they have organizations to run. They have organizations to fund. Like keeping their guys fed in jail, that like all of that stuff requires money.
yeah.
And
Green is
so
the unifying factor. It's the green.
you got it.
Yeah.
So even groups that look like they would not mess with each other, the cartel and these neo Nazis, oh, they are thick as thieves when it comes to making some money. And
Mhm.
in Indiana, that money is predominantly opiates and meth. In Delphi, it's meth.
Hmm.
And so it's made it really hard to pick your demon when it's incestuous. Like they are just
Yeah.
all wrapped up together. Then you throw in a little sex work and some trafficking and the pornographers, and then you
Mhm.
have an impossible conundrum. So it's
Right.
really hard to, first of all, stay open minded because people lie for a million reasons. And
Hmm.
so when your files are full of people that are lying, you can't just go, oh, yep, they lied. So they must be involved. Or, oh,
Well,
he lied. So he
comes to
done it.
my
Like
point. Everybody lied. Everybody lied.
everybody. Correct.
Bottom line with Delphi, everybody lied.
Mhm.
Now,
And
how do
yeah,
we
there's a
sort
lot of
that
mystery
out?
there.
I, you know,
I think for me, I function best within like boundaries. And for me, my boundary has just been find it. And then we can have a bigger discussion about how it all gels and how it all fits. Because everybody in the defense team and my team, they all play a role. Like we all had things that we focused on. And so my piece of the puzzle may have pointed a direction that was different than Erica's piece of the puzzle or Matt's piece of the puzzle. But it's not until you have a well functioning, cohesive group that you can move forward with a good investigation because you have to communicate. Nobody has a brain big enough to hold all of the ick and filth of Delphi.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
you have to have good teamwork and a supportive team so that you can so that I can call somebody up and say, "Hey, I found this thing about this neo-Nazi and his kid who is related to that's also related to." And then you get somebody else that's like, "Well, I found that the girlfriend of said neo-Nazi is related to." And so then you start putting together pieces of your work and it just becomes easier and the picture becomes more clear.
Hmm.
So that's something that you have to do. You have to work with people and you have to work with I got lucky and I liked everybody that I worked with. So that was a bonus because there was not arguing or any of that stuff. But you know, so my focus was on the crime scene, the science, and the tips. That is where I naturally like the science is where my brain naturally goes anyway because that's just a skill that I have been lucky to have acquired. But then all of the tip stuff because the science was buried in the very very boring tip files. Tip files, it sounds fascinating, like everybody says, "Oh my god, you're a PI, that's so cool." Dude, it's really boring sometimes because especially the feds, they're so straightforward in just presenting what they have been told that after 3 or 4 or 5 hours of reading very boring FBI reports, you're ready to do something else. And that's where YouTube came in. I learned a ton from YouTubers, a ton. You all saved us time in a way that we could never properly thank everybody for.
Let me ask you that, Christine. Does yeah? Did the PowerPoint type presentations help?
Yes.
Um,
What
I want to
also
clear
helped,
something up, and I know you don't probably don't want me to do this, and just tell me no, or let's move on if it's not good with you. But I
okay,
think, and I'll shut up. I promise after this. But because I've seen so much noise about this, and You see, I do respect you, and I have an understanding of events that have transpired, and I hate to see when bad information is being spread as accurate.
Mhm.
So, so there's this thing that gets said when people want to be mean, and they say they got fired. So let me be clear about that. You did
We
not
did
get
not get
fired
fired.
for anything.
No.
Your
No.
employer, who was Jason Jensen Investigates, for some reason was removed from participation in this endeavor.
Correct.
Therefore, you then, from that moment forward, worked pro bono. Is
Correct.
that correct? Or
That is
I'll let
correct.
you say it, but that's my understanding is you were never fired. Jason
Oh no.
Jensen was somehow severed.
Yeah, the I think that the official line, it's in one of the filings, so it's not like it's a secret. It was distance, I think, is what they. Um, I think that's how it was presented to us, is that it just wasn't working. You know, he's in Utah, we are here, so up until we worked for Jensen all the way up until the when Brad, Andy were removed and Libredo and Scremen were put in place. Um, and at that time, Jason had an inkling that something wasn't going smoothly. And so we were sent down to have a conversation with Andy and see how we could better help things. And at that time, we offered to stay on. They were also pro bono attorneys at that time.
Hmm.
And so, of course, we were like, well, I guess we're in the pro bono boat with the rest of you.
So,
Well, they eventually got placed back on the case. And then we just never revisited that conversation.
mhm.
So, because I have ethics, I never billed for anything from that day all the way up until sentencing because we had never revisited whether we were going to work for pay or not. But so that left the first half of my employment as paid work. That
Mhm.
that is a legal matter of its
Yeah, we
own.
can talk about that later. But
Yeah,
I guess what
right.
I'm trying to get at is this whole thing that you were fired because you did something wrong. It's completely false.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah, that's
you were employed by Jason Jensen, who at
correct.
this time was severed from the case,
Correct.
and then you decided to stay on pro bono ever since that moment.
Correct.
And so all you've done is contribute for your free time and energy.
Correct.
And so why that would be held against you, I don't know. Now, for
Yeah, I
whatever
don't.
reason Jason Jensen investigates as a unit was removed,
Mhm.
that's on him as the employer
Correct.
you were. He was a contractor for Andy Baldwin is what I seem to
Yeah.
remember. Yeah. So
I
for
think that
anyone
it
who has
was
questions, go and
I think
research
it was
why was
actually
Jason severed, not what did Christine do wrong, okay? And
yeah, yeah, that we that's here's the thing. There's a hierarchy in every workplace, and I was at the bottom. Like there were the attorneys, and then there were the paralegals, and then there was Max and Matt, and then there was Erica and I. Like we we would send our information to Matt, who would then, that was us sending it up the chain. So that's just kind of how the day to day works. I mean, there's nothing controversial in that because
mhm,
that's just work life, right? Um, so it's not like we had some sort of say or power or control over what got used, what didn't, how things were decided. That just wasn't our role. Our role was to find facts, send those up, and then let the lawyers do the lawyering. And that's exactly what we did. You know, a lot of people didn't even know that we existed until we started speaking up after he had been convicted. People didn't even, People didn't even know who we were. And that's okay because the first word of private investigator is
It's
private.
Private.
So, you
private.
know,
Yes.
yeah, private. So I've never been, and I only had my PI license. Indiana doesn't license PIs. That's like another misunderstanding that lots of folks have. Indiana doesn't give licenses to PIs, so you can't be technically a licensed PI in Indiana. They license agencies. So
Mhm.
as long as you work for an agency, then you're licensed to work because the agency license is what covers you as an investigator. It's insurance, it's legal, like there's reasons for that, right? Um, the loophole is if you're employed directly by a law firm. Erica and I were not employed directly by the defense lawyers. So,
So I guess what I'm trying to clear up is they contracted to Jason Jensen's
correct,
Indiana branch,
correct,
and you therefore served Jason Jensen
correct.
up the pipeline. And so when
Exactly.
Jensen was removed, that severed your formal employment
Mine.
um,
Erica is still a PI to this day because
independently. Yeah.
she works for other firms
I'd like to read a
outside of
comment because
that.
someone super chatted. They said, did you feel let down that Richard's defense had hardly called witnesses and went along with not challenging the authenticity of digital evidence admitted? Thank you, Jake Brooks.
Thank you, Jake. Um, so I don't Monday morning quarterback legal decisions because I'm not a lawyer. And because I'm not just your average girl either. Like if I was just somebody on a Friday night talking to the two of you, like I would feel okay with like saying what I really feel. So I have to be a little diplomatic. I can say that when I heard that we were going to close or they were going to close, a day or two before they actually did, I was stunned. So I did find that surprising because I knew I had seen the witness lists prior to trial. Those were released publicly. Um, I had seen that list and I knew the roles of everybody on that list, kind of. I didn't know what the lawyers intended to do with them, but I knew like who was connected how. So I was kind of surprised that they weren't all used, but I don't know why they didn't use them because I'm not a lawyer and they surely didn't owe me an explanation about why they made whatever legal decisions they made. So, I mean, there's that. I can say that there is appeal coming, there is post conviction relief coming, and there may be a
Mhm,
sort of civil ish type
mhm,
suit coming. And because of those reasons, anything that wasn't said in trial, we aren't really at liberty to go around sharing things that aren't from trial. I mean,
right.
I, I try to delicately, like I can give you an idea of what else happened, but like there's more people that you didn't hear from, and I
Mhm.
don't know if they're going to use them later. And I would never ever stand in the way of what needs to happen for Rick.
Mhm. And
Never.
let me say this about, because I know Christine and I have talked. I know what, I guess the overarching theme that Silky and I were discussing, I could pretty confidently say that I believe that that's also your kind of feeling about this crime. So
Pretty
we're
much.
all sort of one accord
Mhm.
here, without
Yeah.
specifics.
Yeah. I mean, there's just some things that I just can't. But yeah, I mean, It's been a long time since I heard some. Okay, people who believe that Rick is innocent. It's been a long time since I've heard any of them say anything that was just wild, with the exception of somehow PIs are able to control what scientific testing gets done. We can't. We're investigators. We're not lawyers. We're not scientists. We don't even control the money. So we can't do any of that. But aside from that, I mean, everybody's kind of barking up the right, they kind of have the right idea on most things. And there's little details that get wrong, but this is a man's life, not a game of semantics. So,
Mhm.
the little pieces and parts that are not quite there are insignificant in the grand scheme of things anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd like to say this too, because I understand what you're referencing is that I've said, and I said to Silky today, listen, I only support the families here, both. Now, as far as if the families are doing withholding of things on the side of the victims, yes, I have issue with that because I think we need the full truth to enable the killers to be caught. On the family of Kathy, of Rick Allen, which at this point is Kathy and her daughter, and then a mother-in-law. With this Rick Allen's family, I fully support whatever decisions they feel are in their best interest, and I also acknowledge that they are capable of making decisions. And there's none
Yeah.
of us are going to get in their heads and cause them to be brainwashed in a way where they feel a certain way. So I just have to publicly, politically state that this whole concept, you guys are giving us too much credit. There's
Mhm.
no influencing of anyone. Like I said to everyone here on the screen and all of my personal friends that when I talk to people behind the scenes, I know these ladies can say that, say this, they can vouch for
Mhm.
it. I say the same shit behind the scenes on the phone that I'll say here on the screen. So I always tell
Mhm.
them, I think it's funny to think someone would think recording you is some sort of gotcha. It's like, yeah,
Right.
record me because the shit you hear
Mhm.
me saying on the screen or would be the same shit you hear on a recording. So there's no
Mhm.
line in the public
No.
facing versus a private conversation. And I notice that with all of you. I don't sense any deception, any of this weirdness behind the scenes, and then you come on streams and say different. We're all
Right.
pretty authentic. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just want to say that about you two ladies, but also in this entire situation that's filled with so much emotion and drama. Uh,
Mhm.
I stand up for transparency because I think that we all, at the end of the day, we have to understand that by the truth being exposed, it's going to be ugly, it's going to be emotional and traumatic, and some people are not going to like it. But
Mhm.
my whole goal of being here is that if I can assist that in any way, that's what I'm doing. And if people don't like certain times that it happens, then they'll have to deal with that. But I feel okay, and so
The only
I
reason
would like to talk. Yeah.
the only reason that we know what we know is because people were willing to say what they thought. Like,
Yeah.
if people didn't say things to us, we wouldn't know anything. We would still be lost and trying to figure out how they got there on the 13th. You know what I mean? Like, it's only because people were willing to share what they thought. So that's like never a bad thing.
Yeah. I was just looking at EOA's comment, which I've said this before. Richard Allen was not involved in the Dropbox. That's why he was chosen, because he couldn't name names. Yeah, that's always been my theory. And something that you said, Christine, earlier about the different groups, that's
Mhm.
something that it's been about 2 years ago now, but I was kind of shocked when I found out not just different, the Vinlanders type, Aryan race type, whatever, and the dealers. Um, I could even kind of understand how they could work together, but what I didn't know is that, especially, and this is very prevalent in other countries as well, Masonic temples, or whatever you call them, the Masonic, they often meet there because of the privacy. So now you've got the white supremacists, you've got the traffickers of whatever they're trafficking, and you've got the Masons. A lot of Ellie, and I'm not, look, I work, I know you probably don't know much about me, but I do work in a jail. I'm a nurse
Oh,
at a jail. Um, and I hate to say this because I love law enforcement. I really do. I am not a fan of Carroll County's law enforcement. Very
right.
different than ours. But so I'm not lopping them all in the box. But I know, even with the people that I know, Freemasonry is a very big thing amongst law enforcement. And, I guess it can be an okay thing, a brotherhood, or if you are in nefarious things, then it can
Mhm.
be a real problem.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I think that you have so many covert people working together, and nefarious people, that I can see where it's a big problem trying to get to the truth of who
Mhm.
did what when.
And you can't tell why they're telling a lie. Like,
Mhm.
even if you know, like, if you know that they are telling you a lie, you don't know why,
Exactly.
because they all have reasons to lie.
Mhm.
Like,
Exactly.
if you're running around stealing ammonia and cooking meth in the bathtub and, you know, injured because you tried shake and bake instead. Like,
Mhm.
people are going to lie. They're going to lie about where they were, what time they got there,
Mhm.
why they were there, what was going on. Like,
Yeah.
but does that mean they killed two children? Well, no.
Mm-mm.
So, but it takes time and it takes finesse. So it takes talking to people that don't know why you're asking what you're asking in order to figure out what you think the lie was about,
Yeah.
which,
Totally true, because people can tell innocent lies for other
Mhm.
reasons,
Yeah.
correct.
but in a double homicide of two little kids, when they don't realize what that's bringing, it's roping them into some kind of bad shit, and they're just lying because they were sleeping around with their girlfriend or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily, when they're being spoken to by even law enforcement, a lot of them didn't even know that they were suspects. Like, they didn't know why they were being talked to. Like, it's not like Liggett or Holman screamed at everybody, because they didn't. Um, so there were people that were evading because they didn't want to get caught at their very lucrative meth businesses.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money
Oh yeah.
in that. And so so you read the interviews and you're like, well, hell, that was a waste of time. There were people who came out of the woodwork, and this happens in every case. People will come out of the woodwork and say, "Yep, it was me. I done it." And they didn't, and they knew they didn't. So, I mean, there was that kind of stuff happening. And then, there are people who are legitimately mentally ill, and they may have thought that they saw something or heard something, and it was just the voices. Like, so there's some of that going on too. You know, that's just
Yeah.
the challenges of my job. It
Yeah.
just comes with the territory. It was helpful that this wasn't our first rodeo. We've done lots of other cases, and we've done some high profile stuff, and that that experience helped a ton here.
can I say this too? Because I've never said this before, and I don't think people understand about you and your coworker here.
Hmm.
Typically, in your work history, the past 15 years, like what you've done has been very rarely to never on the side of the defense, right? You're don't you usually
Correct.
catch killers? Like, could you
Correct.
maybe say that about what your history is?
Yeah, we've always, like, I started out as a victim's advocate. Like, I was just helping with missing persons cases. And then Erica was working on a homicide. And so she helped me out, I helped her out. And we kind of built a career like that. Um, but it's always been Rick is our very first person that we have been on the defense side of things. That is not who I am as a person. I do not protect rapists. I don't protect murderers. I don't protect junkies. I just don't. So when the idea of Delphi was pitched to us at first, I was terrified. I was like, this is not what we do. This is going to hurt my career. This is going to this is going to how do I tell my family I'm defending the Delphi killer? Like, it took me a couple days to like get my head wrapped around that. But what I was told, just give it a week, take a look at what there is, give it a week or two, read through what you want. You can change your mind at any time. This is not like a contract where we can, tie you up and make you work. If you decide that you think that he might have done this, you can walk away at any point. And I never did. You know what I mean? I sat around with excuses of when my payday was going to come for 2 whole years. I i wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have stayed, and I wouldn't have worked for free, and I wouldn't have taken the damage to my reputation and the ick that comes with the Delphi crazy. I wouldn't have done all that if I did not think that that man was truly getting railroaded. And I do. And I suppose if I'm ever proven wrong, then I'll say that I'm wrong. But at this point, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And I will never apologize for advocating for the wishes of my clients, ever.
I think that's a huge testament in itself. I didn't know that about you. And I mean, like, look, if you're just listening, like, really hear what she's saying. She's
Hmm.
not a defense, investigator. She's not. So this was, and I think that's where how we all got so emotionally involved and dedicated to this is it became quickly apparent that something was very wrong in Delphi, and most likely they had the wrong man. And so it was horrifying to watch what he went through, what the family went through, and yeah, that's why we're all here. And I think it's huge coming from you, Christine, with given your past. That was a lot. You talked about your reputation. I'm sure people were like, "What are you doing?"
Oh,
You know?
yeah. Because we do missing persons work, right? And we sometimes look for missing children. And so there are just truly hardcore advocates. Man, there was only one that like really flipped her lid. But she was like, I can't work with you anymore. You are defending a child killer. I was like, well, I'm a fact finder for a man that's been accused. I don't know anything about defending a killer.
Mhm.
So, there's that. But I like it. I like my work, and I like protecting people that need protecting because
Mhm.
they've been unfairly treated. And that is usually the families of murder victims. But in this instance, it's all of them. This
Yeah.
whole thing it wasn't just not right for Rick, and it definitely wasn't. Kathy's was treated horribly,
Yes.
but then Libby and Abby's families, they deserve they deserve to witness a fair trial,
Mhm.
whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And whatever the outcome is, they deserve to
Yeah, and
sleep
how
at
is this
night
justice for
knowing that
them? But
that's
I mean, when you've got the majority of the public now outraged by this railroading because it's so obvious.
Mhm.
mm-hmm,
It's hard. Honestly, it's hard. You know me, Christine. I have no definitive feelings, but one thing I like was so obvious is this is a railroading. Like
mm-hmm. Yeah, to me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's not okay for anybody. Abby and Libby had friends, they have cousins, they have siblings, they've got parents and grandparents, and like the whole that community as a whole was freaking traumatized. Like it was just kind of like the long arm of the law just kind of stormed in, and whoever got in the way got trampled a little bit. And so you have kids that were they were at least treated kindly, but there were kids that were manipulated into saying things that weren't so, or manipulated into keeping quiet about things that could have been helpful. Like, so you've got all of that wreckage too. Those kids are 21 now, but 20, 21 ish, but they still will have long lasting effects
Mhm.
of losing someone that they cared about, and the way that all of their friends and you know they were delicate. I will say law enforcement was delicate with the children, which is a blessing. But I mean, those kids still have that. They're going to live with that forever. The whole community is, and they deserve to know who's doing what in their community. Like, if we found it, you know that law enforcement found it. They had a 7 year head start on us, or
Mhm.
5 years. So you know that they know. And there were people that very clearly should have gone to prison for the very ick things that they were doing. And they didn't, because they were too busy trying to catch the Delphi killer.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's exactly how I got involved is, I was minding my own business, something totally different topic. And when they arrested Richard, um, and what happened to Kathy immediately was horrifying to me. And I made one video. I didn't even know. I assumed he was guilty. I was just like, hey, y'all, people out here in the world, like, let's not crucify Kathy, because we don't even know if she knows anything. This poor woman is probably devastated. And I mean, boom. And down the rabbit hole I went. And it was not very long before I was like, hey, wait a second. This doesn't make sense. And yeah, for her, for all of these kids that you're talking about, they all deserve to know the truth.
Hmm.
Because
Very much
people
so.
talk because, in a small town, so, okay, well, they caught the killer, right? They caught him, he's been sentenced, but, all these years, they've heard rumors, they've heard stuff, they've heard other
Yeah,
kids who are out there, and it's like, is this what you wanna grow up with? And you're like, "Okay, they say they've caught the killer, but so and so was there, and I've
and
talked to them."
that's what I
You
want
know
to
what
say,
I'm saying?
Silky, too. To piggyback is like, and all those people who've been accused over these years, they deserve to be cleared. Like if they
Absolutely.
catch,
Mhm.
think about all these poor innocent men in Carroll County who've been
Yeah.
accused, whether they
Mhm.
were meth dealers or douchebags or not.
Mhm.
Mhm.
This is a
Right.
travesty. It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
But the killing hasn't stopped either. And so there are other deaths that may or may not be related. But you would think that in all these years, we would be able to know what was related and what was not. And for my peace of mind, I can't tell. Like the polygrapher and her daughter and Josh Ward and the list goes on.
Mhm.
We should like
The
have a
Delphi
reasonable
body
idea.
count. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Delphi body count. We
Yeah.
should be able to like at least think we know which ones were related and which ones weren't. And I can't answer that on any of those
Yeah.
because
Someone
I
does
I
have
don't
a,
know.
I hate to interrupt you, but someone has a comment that she's repeated 2 or 3 times. So I want to
Oh,
put it up
oh,
finally.
I don't have my glasses on,
It
and so I
says,
can't
does
see the chat.
Christine think Flora is related to Delphi?
Loosely. I think that Flora is related to a suspect in Delphi, and so whether it was someone that actually was involved in the murders in Delphi, I can't I can't say for sure either way. I mean, but I can say that it was probably one of the suspects that
Yeah.
have been mentioned and discussed. Yeah,
That would be a
I'm
yes.
fairly
Yeah, I,
certain.
I would think I would think that I know that Prof and I both know who you're talking about when you
Oh, okay.
say that. Um
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean you can't discount it.
Mm-mm.
You can't discount it. It does it make it fact? Not necessarily,
Right.
but it's also very sus, you know.
Yeah.
Big
And
connection there.
there's still information that I'm learning about that. Like Flora, it's funny that Flora and Delphi got tied together.
Mhm.
Um, and the voices that it tied them together at first did it for absolutely not the right reasons that they're connected. Like it was just kind of like there's this sus fire, um, and some of the people overlapped. There's
Vinlanders.
more than that. Yeah, there's Delphi was not my focus, but you can't help but accidentally learn about that stuff.
Oh, you mean
So
Flora?
that
Flora. Flora was not
or
your focus.
Flora, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, Flora.
No, I think what
Um,
Christine is getting at is there's things that are not in the public conversation yet,
correct.
but are in the federal tips, et cetera, that point
Correct.
to other individuals who we don't even discuss yet.
Correct. And that's because none of us I don't want my house to set on fire. And neither do either of you.
Right.
And so it's not that I'm a coward because I'm not, because I am not I am not going to cover up for a bunch of fuckery and
Mhm.
neo-Nazism. That's not going to happen. But I want to make sure that we're trashing the right people. I want to make sure that we are putting the right people in the spotlight, and that that takes time.
Speaking of
It
that,
takes that.
Christine, I would like your comment on this personally. I'm glad nobody brought it up. He says, do you think Anna Downham and John McCurdy were related to Delphi, their deaths? Um, if
You
you know
know,
about them.
I do. I know who they are, and I know that investigators from down there came up here to take a look at some things. I'm not certain exactly what they thought tied them together at this point. I have a good idea, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. And so I did have some conversation with them. Um, we'll see what comes of it.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Do you think their alleged killer is a patsy, or they
The
got
one
the
they
right guy?
currently have.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think they got the right guy, but
Me either. Okay,
I don't
good.
know.
Yeah, I
So
don't
we'll
either.
move on
Time
from
will
that because
tell.
that's a complicated one. But
Yeah.
no, my
Time will
feeling is
tell.
that they got the wrong guy and that it's to
Yeah.
hide. It's another Richard Allen. I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe.
but
Yeah.
maybe.
I don't. I used to. I used to trust our justice system, um, and my beliefs about how trustworthy in the system I am now. It's not the same as it was a couple years ago,
Yeah. Me either.
unfortunately.
Me
Yeah.
either. Let me ask you this. What is there any weight to the suspicions that the Stevensons were even loosely connected?
Maybe. Maybe. I'm not sure what connects them. Um, for sure. But yeah, it's possible. It's
Okay.
possible.
What about oh, Evansdale?
Um, so we're waiting on post conviction and we're waiting on appeals. And so I don't think that I should go anywhere near
Moving right
Evansdale.
along.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. That's fine.
That
Uh, let's
I
see if I.
answer when I can, and
That's fine. No,
that's
I don't
vulnerable.
want you to be uncomfortable in any way.
Yeah.
Let's see if I. Yeah. So Crazy Girl says they kept the Stevensons close to the vest. Yeah. No fucking kidding. Listen,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've not been shy about the fact that I've spoken to Mr. Cox several times. I like him, but I'm telling you, that guy is the most tight-lipped guy you've ever talked to in your
Uh,
life. He will not
incredibly.
give up. He doesn't care how long it's been. He will not give up a single detail of that. But there's something going on with those Stevensons, and I suspect that it probably ties to the drug game. Is my suspicion because remember,
Possible.
Mr. Stevenson, he has family members who are addicted, and he also had a chapel that he was running out of a gas station that was frequented by truckers.
Mhm.
So again, I've never let the Stevensons go. I stopped talking about it because I'm working on it. I'm kind of like Christine in that when I'm working on something that's complicated, I don't really want to talk about it until
Right.
I can really say something new. And honestly, I can't say anything new about Stevenson's because they won't cooperate. But that tells me he still has faith that it's going to be solved because if
Yeah.
he was giving up hope and desperate, he'd tell about the crime scene. Because that crime
Exactly.
scene, here's what I know: that crime scene, he told me this. He said that crime scene was literally one of the 1% most rarest crime scenes, just like Delphi was,
Correct.
Mhm.
that the FBI comes across. So to me, they know that it's an extremely complicated crime scene,
Hmm.
which means it's a probably a good signature if they could just get a bead on somebody. But I'm going to shut up. I don't want to take up too much time with my speaking because I
Mhm.
always talk on this channel. I'd like these two ladies to speak, but I just wanted to interject that because I know everyone's still concerned
Yeah.
about that.
And they
And
should be. They should be. Those murders are unsolved, and there's no reason for them to still be unsolved, except for, in my experience, cases go unsolved when the people that are suspected are fucking scary. Sorry for swearing, Silky.
Yeah.
I'm used to
No.
being on Prof's channel where I drop the F bomb often.
It's
Um,
okay.
swearing is
I
encouraged
don't get
here.
offended. I
I'm
don't get
trying to
offended.
behave myself, but you know, people don't want to talk when they could be next. And so the
Mm.
tighter lipped the public is, the scarier the possibilities, I guess. That's how I perceive that. And you're right, Prof. That man is tight lipped. there is like nothing you can say. I used every trick that I knew because I can comfort people into spilling their guts. That guy, nope.
Hey, but he's a very nice, good guy. I like him.
He
Let me
is
say
very
this
nice.
because I want to say this earlier. A lot of people don't know this, but the entire reason I'm on YouTube is because of cops. Okay. So I had to tell my son the other day. He was asking me about his insanity, and I told him the whole story. And when I told him the story, I realized I was telling him that honestly, the reason that I came on is because years ago, I was talking with a bunch of retired cops, four of them. And these cops kept telling me, "Go to YouTube, go to YouTube, go to YouTube," and I kept resisting. And finally, the fourth one, he aggravated me so much about it that finally I said, "Okay, I'm going to stop talking to these cops and just go ahead and go on YouTube." And no, and now I'm like you guys. I do like cops. I just like the good ones,
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
the
me too.
liars.
Yeah.
And that's been the heartbreaking part is that when you believe in law enforcement and you see the shit that's so egregious that we've seen in Delphi, it makes you want to fight them. It really does.
Mhm.
You
You
know.
know, they market like there's a lot of PR that goes into hiring officers. In my experience, they go after a certain type of individuals. Like, there's a reason why over 25% of them beat their wives. Like,
Mhm.
they kind of gravitate towards people with certain ways of thinking and, you know, prior skill set. A lot of them are ex-military. Um, And I think some of that helps to create the culture that ignores problems. I
Mhm.
think that they get this we're a family mindset, we have to band together. And I think that that makes it really, really tough for people who want to be whistleblowers. Like it's
Yeah.
just not safe and they just don't for whatever reason. Um, but I don't think that it is a coincidence that we see some shady behavior when it looks on the surface. I'm not a cop, I don't know, but on the surface, it looks like they market towards a specific kind of individual.
Yeah, and I mean, I work mostly with corrections officers, but I work with the deputies, of course, a lot,
Mm.
as we're in the same place and house, we're all of our stuff is together. Um, and I will say that my observation watching new officers come in, whatever side they're going to, um, when you are dealing with criminals 24/7,
Mm.
it changes who you are. It changes your aggression level, and I can say that even in nursing at the jail, my aggression level skyrocketed,
Mm-hmm.
because you're dealing with a certain type of person, and after a while, you just get sick of the manipulation and the whole thing
That's
that
why
goes
you're
with
so
it.
sassy. I would love to hear you talking to those guys. I mean, I could just imagine.
Oh, I
I
bet.
You would not recognize me, Prof. You would not
Mm-mm.
recognize me. At all. I will say this, I mean, I am genuine, like, who I am on YouTube is who I am. However, I will say this, I speak their language very well.
Yeah, you pick it up pretty quick.
You got to.
It doesn't
You
take you
got to
very
get
Yeah,
down
long
on that
for.
communication level.
yeah,
Mhm.
and yeah, there are some that just have been scared of. I can be. Now I try to help people. That's my first go-to. Of course, let me try to help you. But if you're going to con me, yeah, I'm going to hand you your rear end. I
Yeah,
sure
that's right.
am. And
Yeah,
but
that's the hardest thing about being in defense work is that I can't do that. Like
mhm.
there are some people that I would just love to throttle. Like like I would just love to like scream and yell and say mean things, but I cannot. And that's the hardest part of the job
Oh, yeah.
is biting my tongue. Mhm.
Well, see,
Especially
I did that for decades in regular nursing. You know, you have to bite your tongue to everybody, the admin, the doctors, the families, the patients, and I think that's why I love corrections is because I don't have to do that to anybody anymore. I tell
Mhm.
them exactly what I think and what direction they should head in.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to be diplomatic. Like, of course, there are times when I lose my patience, but when somebody calls you, at 4 o'clock in the morning and they just want to yell, it's real hard to keep your mouth in check when you're
Yeah.
experiencing that. But for the most part, you know, I treat people the way that I would want to be treated.
Mhm. Sure.
It
Sure,
doesn't
and
matter.
and I have to say that, and if if we're on, a decent respect level mutually, it doesn't matter to me what my patients are in there for. I have a lot of murderers and, every garden variety violent crime you can think of, including children, and I don't look at their crime to determine if I'm going to treat you well or make sure that we do the best
Exactly.
we
That's
can.
see, that's why I love you. Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Um, but then
They're
if you
very fortunate to have you.
oh,
They
well,
really
thank
are.
you. I mean, but like I said, you try to con me and you come at me sideways, you're gonna wish you didn't. You know,
Mhm.
but honestly, I will say this, the best relationships I've ever had with any inmate has been the ones that we've had a screaming come to Jesus meeting. And they're very upset with me, but they will come back and apologize and understand I will help you. And then we
Mhm.
become our relationship is much better
Right.
for getting all that. But I think a lot of it is how they've interacted and their criminal world. And so for the officers it's the same way, and I understand, like, back to that point, I understand how the officers get, how their personality changes and how their view of the world kind of gets a little bit sideways as well.
Well, yeah, you're a victim of your, or we are all products of our environment. And if you live in chaos, your mind can't focus on peaceful things. Like, there's that, it's almost PTSD, but not, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
if you're living in a disordered environment, you can't then expect your brain to be 100% ordered. Like, it just kind of, it's like Delphi land. Like, you can't be around crazy nonstop and then expect yourself to always react rationally. Like,
exactly.
there's a
Mhm.
disconnect there.
That's why I stopped answering
Independent.
the phone and I hit block a lot because man, the people that get to you,
Yeah.
oh man, if you don't cut that shit off, they'll drive you bonkers.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I get texts all night long. Like, it'll be, I didn't even really do anything. I just didn't give them the answer that they wanted. So then they want somebody to fight with. And that's okay. You can fight with my phone all night long. I'm just not going to answer it. I'm not going to
Mhm.
answer it. I'm not going to answer you. Like, mutual respect is a thing.
Mhm.
Andy Cindy left a comment. I have a TV over to my side. So when y'all see me turning my head away, it's because I can see that at a distance. These comments on my screen, I'm old, and so my eyes won't do that. Anyway, she made a comment about needing oversight. So for law enforcement, there is a mechanism for that. It's called a Citizens Review Board. Not every police department has one. Mine in LaPorte does not. It's something that we're trying to put into place. But you got to get a chief that is friendly to the idea, because it's real scary to, when your officers are being disciplined, to have a set of citizens, and usually a lawyer in the mix, and there, it's usually a pretty varied professional setting, to then overlook the investigation, to overlook the discipline, like all of that. Because police departments are very, very accustomed to everything being a secret, and citizens review boards blow that concept out of the water. You want to clean up a PD, you put 6 or 7 common citizens in there looking at their disciplinary reactions. That will clean that shit up. So if anybody says that, we need oversight, hit your mayor up and have a conversation and say, look, we think we need some oversight here. We need a mechanism for them to not be investigating themselves. And even if they're pulling officers from other departments, a sheriff is not going to be unbiased when he's looking at the behavior of a local cop. It's just not. That's just not
Yeah.
the acceptable answer. So, anyway, I just thought I'd
Can
throw
we
that
do a
in.
last one? I hate to cut it short, but my back's starting to hurt a little.
Yeah,
Uh,
of
can
course.
we do a JoJo says for Christine? Were people afraid to speak out regarding the van lenders?
Absolutely. Yes. So, most, I don't want to paint all the Vinlanders with the same brush, because that's not fair. Just because they're neo Nazis, and so we don't love that. But not all of them are capable of killing 2 children in
Right.
broad daylight,
Yeah.
right? So I don't agree with their views, and I think it's deplorable and all. However, I'm not saying that every Vinlander is just the devil incarnate.
Mhm.
Okay, well, maybe I am, but you know what I mean. But the public was terrified. The ones that didn't giggle, because there's always people who want to believe that everything's fine. And so there are people that don't even believe that the Vinlanders are a thing. Like, there's that. But everybody who like gets the concept, yeah, they're terrified. We are in Indiana. They still have annual Klan rallies here. Like, these people have some,
Mhm.
they have some pull, they have some weight. They are cops, they are factory workers, they are, these guys are in every facet of normal life. Any kind of individual that you bump into on the daily could be a Vinlander.
They have
They're
some
not all
cojones.
like
Yeah.
long
Mhm.
haired, greasy police. It started in prisons with inmates. Now there's a lot of guards that are Vinlanders. Like, it's a thing. And the people that have seen them do some scary things, them dudes are scary. Like,
Mhm.
I would be lying if I said that it didn't terrify me in the beginning. Not, you have two choices when you come across something like neo-Nazis in the cartel. You can either be very, very quiet about it, or you can be very, very loud. Either
Mhm.
one of those options may keep you alive, but living in the middle, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So you either don't want them to know that you know who they are, or you want to be loud enough that they can't kill you and it be hidden. So that's the route I chose as soon as I could. As soon as trial was over and sentencing was over, I was like, you know what? It's on. I am taking a good look at these guys, because I don't I don't have confidence that it was looked at well enough by law enforcement for whatever reason.
Okay, I'll do
So,
one more. One more. Sorry. Christine, you became the
Yes,
guest of honor. Think.
I
Trial Junkie
did.
says, we don't hear anything about the Amish community. Do they have anything to do with the crime? Well, let's talk about Benjamin Mears. Uh,
So Ben Mears, what we heard from at trial, Ben Mears seems to be a nice guy that is under a whole lot of stress because he lived right across from where all this happened. Um, he they're German Baptist, right? So
mhm,
they're a they're an Anabaptist, which puts
mhm.
them in the same kind of category as the Amish, but not quite. They're
Right.
not
So I'm
like,
not saying they're Amish. I just thought it was a good jumping
yeah,
point to point at Ben.
yeah.
Because I
So
think I guess let
they're
me say
similar.
I think he was muddy bloody guy. I think he was muddy bloody guy. So I'm trying to get Christine heading in direction of
Oh,
is that a potential? Yeah.
so I did hear a rumor. It has not been confirmed, so I don't know the validity of it. But I did hear the idea that Ben may have just accidentally been called Money Bloody Guy. So there's a slaughterhouse at the Mears farm. And so the story goes is that there had been a a hog slaughtered on the 13th. And so he was seen on the 14th at while searching, and that he may have had some blood on his jacket. Well, Muddy Bloody Guy was seen on the 13th, right? So there's this theory that Ben Mears may have been like innocently walking around his property, going to check
Mhm.
his mail, like maybe. I don't know what I don't know what that means, but like it caught my attention, and it's something I think probably will get looked into later or sooner or later, I don't know. But like Ben Mears might have just he might have accidentally
Mhm.
become Muddy Bloody Guy completely innocently. I am not saying that he did anything wrong. I'm just saying he might have just been
Yeah.
innocently walking down the road and somebody went, "Oh, that guy's all dirty. He's Bloody Guy."
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've ever processed an animal. I grew up hunting, so I have. Yeah, it can be messy.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So,
it
Yeah, and
sure
I could
can.
totally see. So imagine you see that guy and it's kind of fuzzy in your memory because at the time you don't even pay attention. And then you hear
right.
about this brutal murder of two little girls and their heads chopped off, blah, blah, blah. And then you
Mhm.
start to think back and you're like, wait up, maybe he was the killer.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
could see how that could go. And
Yeah.
especially how Carba like waited so long, so I kind of want to stop there, but
Yeah.
I for me I've only understood like the use of this narrative point or putting a pin in a timeline to make
Mhm.
this story happen. But like I said
Yeah.
last night on the part one of this, I said, how on earth, if this is truly a killer who just killed Abby and Libby and he's covered in blood from waist down, how does he get in his how is it Richard Allen who gets in his car, drives
Mhm.
all around, and then his car is pristine?
Right.
Right. Right.
So it just doesn't
And
math.
it doesn't even make sense that you're walking around like that after just having committed that crime with
Right, you
people. Like,
just
that's
casually
insane.
walking on the road, and there's like a 20-foot deep ravine you could be sneaking through.
There have been cases where they have found blood in crime scenes decades later. After the killer has cleaned up, they've had the carpet replaced, they've painted, and there are cases where law enforcement finds DNA evidence
Mhm.
because blood is sneaky. It
Mhm.
is incredibly hard to sanitize a scene where blood could happen. Like they find blood in vehicles that have been cleaned or even burned. There was one where it was burned and they
Wow.
found blood on the pull handle underneath the front seat, the adjuster bar where you grab it
Wow.
to move the
Yeah.
seat forward or back. Killer had gotten in, moved the seat back, and they found blood in that car. Like,
Wow.
people think that it's real easy to get rid of all the blood, especially in a vehicle. No, it's not easy. People leave DNA behind them all the time.
Yeah. I mean, that just came up at our jail because they're adding another building. And so they had to move this whole big spot of cars that were behind a fence. And I was asking the warden, I'm like, why are we keeping these cars? And he said they're murder cars. And I'm like pending cases? He said no, they've been in prison for years, but they literally have to keep them forever.
Mm-hmm.
Forever.
Yep.
For
Evidence
that
Yep.
is
reason.
evidence until it becomes property. So,
There was a point in time where all that they thought that they were ever going to be able to do with blood was figure out the blood type. And then DNA got better,
Yeah.
or DNA came along, and they used to use like 13 markers to compare DNA samples, and they would say that's a match. They no longer even call DNA a match anymore. They say that it is likely, with
Mhm.
like this big, huge
like some
number.
statistical
Yeah,
probability.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, there's a huge statistical probability because DNA advancements happen
Mhm.
and new shit comes along all the time. One of them that's a hot topic of conversation right now is SNP DNA. And that's where they can take hair that does not have a root. They take it and they snip out a section. That's why they call it snip. And then certain labs, very advanced labs, can get DNA. They think now from hair, like there's a possibility of getting it. I mean, the test is there. They know they
Mhm.
can do the test. They know the test works, but they can't always get DNA off that sample. But now they're to the point where they can test hair that doesn't even have a root and get a DNA sample from that.
Well, see, what
Couple of
amazed
things.
me about this case is, I mean, they arrested Rick Allen just a month or two before Brian Koberger. And, his whole thing is 10 skin cells from the button of the sheath of the knife. And I'm like, okay, 10 skin cells, and yet we've got all this DNA,
Correct.
in this case, and we're just like, okay, it's unknown. We don't know. We don't know whose it is. Why
In
not?
this in this case, they used it's called YSTR. So they do short tandem repeats of little sections of a chromosome from the Y chromosome only. So most of the evidence was never tested for any female DNA because
Mhm.
they only did YSTR DNA. So that's a big old complicated way of saying men have an X and a Y, women have an X and an X.
Mhm.
Usually it's not always that way, but that's like the normal is
Mhm.
that only men have Y
Right.
chromosome.
Right.
Um, and so they didn't even look for X chromosomes. Why?
Which
I
is
don't know. Somebody
ridiculous.
must have decided that the suspect was male, and I think that's probably because Bridge Guy was male.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Um,
that's
I
that's
don't.
to me that's
I,
the huge problem is the tunnel vision in this case.
Mhm.
Tunnel vision turned into a cover up and in a railroading. And now we got this where we are.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So there's more to learn. You all
Yeah.
will learn more as it comes along. Only I gotta say, this new trial evidence that was released, Barb got a very small sample of what she asked for. So there will probably be more DNA or more trial evidence that will come
Oh
out.
yeah.
You guys will
Oh, yeah.
learn more as everybody else learns more. And the only thing we can do is do our job and hope that it makes the difference at trial post conviction, and then hopefully we can get some other killers.
Keep doing. Yeah, we keep doing.
Do you
Yep.
think that there's any chance we're ever going to see the autopsy?
So Judge Gull, so she used this rule, from my understanding, in Indiana, cases involving children and sexual assaults, children and sexual assaults. Um, there's different rules about what evidence can be shared, even
Mm,
later. So I do believe that she used that as her reason to keep the autopsy information sealed, because there was a specific order to seal that and any crime scene
Yeah, it's
photos.
all specifically sealed now, so we're not
Yeah,
seeing it. I'm
yeah, you're
promising
not
you.
gonna.
but and I understand that. I mean, she invoked a certain rule, but I've seen the autopsy from the Flora girls, so
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's
I
all been
don't.
placed under seal. Is I guess what I'm trying to shut it
Yeah,
down is no, she sealed it all. Like that happened, I think post sentencing maybe, but
it was post sentencing.
McClellan requested it all be sealed and the crime scene. So we'll never see the autopsy. We'll never see the crime scene. And that is the way they want it because this is Delphi. Like
Not
Aaron says, the
until
release processes for evidence is about as honest and ethical as dirty Delphi.
yeah,
there is a chance that you may see it at a retrial if the
Right.
appeal goes as the way we hope that the appeal is going to go. And I don't know if they can use it in post conviction relief or not. I don't know. So for now, barring some court's order to change it, for now it's sealed. Sucks for me because there's information in there that, like, I feel like people ought to know. I understand not sharing pictures of dead
yeah,
children, but
sure.
like there's information we ought to be able to answer, and we
Hmm.
cannot. So I can refer you back to all of the people that were actually in the courtroom that watched the testimony from the medical examiner. I say go find those people. Burkhart was there, Mata was there, Lawyer Lee was there.
Hmm.
I would go back and watch their content from that day and put them all together because they're all trustable sources.
Hmm.
Put them all together and you get a better
That's how we
picture,
get it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's how you're going to have to get it because,
Well,
like, I can't even discuss it at this point now.
right.
well, thank you, ladies, so much. I'd like to wrap it up and thank everyone in the chat so much for being
Yes,
here. Special thank you to Miss Christine for visiting us when she
Oh,
didn't have to and taking
yes.
all your
Thank you.
questions.
no
Um,
problem at
e-
all.
Everyone, please subscribe to Miss Silky's channel. She's a wonderful channel to go subscribe to. She's also got nice storytelling channel if you're interested in that too. But go learn about
Yeah,
Silky and hey,
and
Right?
Prof.
like,
If you're
Yeah,
not,
it,
if you're, yeah,
Prep, Prep's kind of an asshole, so I mean, you can all like use your own judgment on that guy.
best interest at heart, but it comes across the wrong way every single time.
That's me teasing. I actually adore him, so don't snip that and be tomorrow's headline is going to be Christine
Christine
says
says
Trump's
props and
an
a-hole.
asshole.
And look, sweet dude Shibby says, chat sucked again tonight.
Listen,
Just
Shibs, I'm gonna have to spank you. All right.
all right,
Thank
y'all.
you
yeah.
All
guys
you
Thank
so
you,
beautiful
much.
people in
Christine.
chat.
Anytime,
I just
you are
love you. I just
welcome.
love you.
Anytime.
Christine
Yeah,
Silky, I just love you. Everybody, everyone, just hug your kids, hug your wife. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. I'm trying to end this stream
Can you end it?
somehow, if
I
I
couldn't
can.
figure out how to leave either. I just went to go look at it and it's not my usual StreamYard.
Okay, wait a second. Well, yeah, something happened.
Thank you,
Okay, you're
everyone.
gonna
We'll
get
see you
the
again
short
tomorrow,
intro,
by
I
the
guess.
way.
All right,
Prof
I will see you
channel has
later.
a live tomorrow night. So.
All right,
Bye guys.
bye, y'all.